Mr. Coe.
Present.
Mr. Matt. Ms. Paulson.
Yes.
Ms. Robinson.
Present.
All present.
All here and accounted for.
Present.
Can we please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have anyone signed up to speak this evening, Ms. Lyons?
We do, Mr. Bruce Mellon.
Well, you're welcome to stand at the podium if you like, or stand wherever you like.
All right. Thank you for the time. I was here on Monday and I spoke to Jay. Jay told me he's the village manager. And he is.
You told me that?
I didn't know how many of these I needed. I just made 3, so you can pass them around.
Sure.
All right.
Are they all the same?
Yes, they are.
Sure.
Yeah, you can just kind of pass them around. So like I said, on Monday, on the 14th, I came in and I spoke to Jay. I tried to use your website to do this, but the website, after I completed writing what I was going to say, it told me I wrote too much. You can only have 100 characters, and I was 398 over. So, what can I say?
Everybody sees this?
Yes.
Which you pass around, just for context, I don't mean to interrupt.
Okay, so this discussion here is about the Class C vehicle parked at 208 Julie Lane. I live at 206. I'm the next door neighbor. These people just purchased this house. It's been parked there since 11/7. And on that very day, I asked the guy who owns the property, I asked him, do you know that that vehicle has to be on your property? Because it was hanging off the edge. And he said, yes, they told me I could have it on as long as it was on my property. But I told him, well, it's not, it's over the sidewalk. He goes, well, I'll make it fit. That was on 11/7, so it's still sitting there. But, so I'm in here, I'm saying that the RV's front end is over the village sidewalk. And that this is a violation at least of at least one village ordinance. But more importantly, this is a safety issue. The issue is the owner, he's going to be backing out of that driveway, totally blind to pedestrians and traffic coming from the east of his home. So when he comes out, backing out of that driveway, he's going to have no view of the sidewalk to the east of his property or the street. The vehicle is creating a wall to the east side of his property. We have children who walk and ride bikes to school every day. The sidewalk traffic includes bicycles, skateboards, dog walkers, baby strollers, joggers, and many people have children who are unsupervised and they run ahead of their parents. And when they do things like this, people walking west, they're not going to see any car coming down that driveway because they too will be blind to the fact that there's someone backing up because that vehicle is blocking their view. So people walking west, they're not going to be seeing anybody coming down that driveway. So that's about it on my complaint. I have a few suggestions, if that's okay.
It's your time.
Okay, the village should be proactive on this because it is a safety issue. And I'm not an anti-RVer because I've owned 3 RVs in my life. Mike has owned an RV, but you can see around them. I wouldn't put an RV on my property that would go from the very wall of my house, front wall, to the sidewalk. It's an eyesore. I wouldn't be allowed to build a fence 12 foot high from my house to the sidewalk. So this RV is kind of an eyesore. So I'm kind of thinking create a village ordinance that would create a safe distance between to allow people to be able to see. In other words, yes, you're on your property, but kind of like maybe make an easement towards the sidewalk where there has to be a 10-foot opening to where when a car is coming out, at least that person, before they cross the sidewalk, can see if there's anybody there to their left or right before they back out. The guy who lived there before, he used to go to work early and he didn't shovel his driveway. He came out of his driveway hot when there was a lot of snow on his driveway, so he could make it to the street. Now, if this guy tries to do that and there's someone on the sidewalk or someone's on the street, he's gonna run right into him. So, not, or just not allow any vehicles to be parked on driveways that create hazards. Safety should supersede any village ordinance. I mean, safety should be a priority. And I think that's where we are with this. I mean, like I said, I'm not an anti-RV. I think your property is yours to do what you want. But when you get to this stage where you bring home an RV that is completely blocking the view, to be able to see either the car coming out of the driveway or him coming out and not being seen cars or people, I think that's dangerous. And I think that no one has the right to put others in harm. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chief Pan, you're aware of the situation and working through it according to the ordinance right now that there's been a complaint.
We received a complaint through the app on Monday that I think Jake
Sure.
mentioned it after he talked to the gentleman and the homeowner was advised of the ordinance, and then I'll have somebody go back and check it right away.
Because as you guys, as the board knows, we have an ordinance that says you can't block the sidewalk, and if you have a recreational vehicle, whether it be a vehicle with a boat or anything under that category, I believe it's 24 hours that you can block the sidewalk at any given time. You're even allowed 24 hours where you can park it on the street in front of your domicile, if you are, for the purposes of working on it or loading and unloading and that kind of stuff. But for the most part, people are pretty respectful of that. And we worked really hard some years ago to pass that ordinance because there wasn't anything on the books.
Right.
And so this is clearly a violation. And so, I mean, we can address this as it's a violation, but.
But, you know, like I'm saying, there's a safety issue.
No, I understand.
It is, we have a lot of kids on this. The very next door neighbor, they let their kids out to play. Those kids are playing. They're not-
At the end of the day, this is specific to this situation, this doesn't pass our ordinance at all. So
Yeah, but what happens if you can back it up and get it just off?
I don't think he's backing that up. He's got a ladder hanging off of the back of that thing. He's not backing that up.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
So,
Well, is there anything if he does, if he's able to do
well,
that?
yeah, so there's a process. And so it's one of these things that if he continues to violate the ordinance, there's a process that we have to follow. It's not instantaneous, you know, so when there's a complaint, I mean, Chief can speak to this, but correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, they have to issue the warning ticket and then they have to write the ticket and then he can keep getting, you know, parking tickets. But if it's an ordinance violation, then we start the code enforcement process, which again, I mean, that takes time too. So
Right.
it's not an instantaneous thing where we can show up with a tow truck.
Absolutely.
So,
And I didn't think it was going to be that way. Everybody has, gears have to turn.
but we take complaints very seriously, and we take code enforcement very seriously. That's something this board is committed to. So I would say let's work through the process with this particular instance, and then we'll look toward the future.
All right, thank you very much.
So just a quick question. You said that the neighbor had just moved in.
Yes.
Was it before the parking ban had started for November 1st?
I don't know. I think he moved in on November 6th.
Okay, so,
And he would never park it on the street. He just put it there. As a matter of fact, one of the wheels, one of the front wheels is not even on the driveway. It's actually up on the grass.
Yeah, which again is outside of our ordinance as well. All four wheels or 6 wheels in this case have to be on a hard surface.
Right.
So there's multiple violations just in this one.
You know, that day I spoke to him was the 7th, and it wasn't until the 14th that I showed up here at the village hall to complain. I was willing to throw this guy slack also before I would make a complaint of it. And he didn't make any move at all to correct the situation,
Well,
so
let's work through the process and we'll go from there.
thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the meeting.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I don't get to do this, so.
All right, Mr. Hedges. Oh, wait, no, hold on. We have to approve the minutes. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. But before you'll see the meeting minutes from November 3rd, 2022. Please review them at this time. Are there any changes to the minutes?
The only suggested change I have, and it's a small one, under announcements, when I referenced Officer Davis, my thank you is to the entire police department and fire department. But I did reference Officer Davis in that part, absolutely accurate, but it was a larger
Can you take that out of your pay, Ms. Gasper? Anybody else? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes with the changes that trustee Kelly presented.
So
Seconded.
Questions, comments, concern? Ms. Gasper?
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye. Thank you.
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Mr. Hedges?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me begin by just saying to all of you that this is the season, so my apologies for the fact that the meetings, the last 3 meetings of the year are always pretty busy. The 15th of December is already pretty busy, so we're trying to stack a few things more on December 1st. So you have a pretty heavy agenda in front of you tonight. The first thing we would like to ask your consideration of a motion to accept the fiscal year 2022 annual audit. And we have online with us today, Monica Adamski from Lauderdale Men. She'll give you just a brief overview of the document and then answer your questions. Monica?
All right, can everybody hear me? Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Monica Adamski. I am the audit manager for this year's audit. I will briefly walk you through 3 required pieces of communication that we've published in relation to your audit. Again, thanks for having me tonight, and I wanted to give a special thanks to Lori for all the hard work. We got this audit done a lot faster than always, so again, an audit process requires a great deal of time and effort outside of the scope of everybody's normal job functions, and we're very appreciative of those extra efforts that were put forth for the audit process. We did have a seamless line of communication, and Lori did ensure that we had everything that we needed in a timely manner. So again, thank you for that. First thing I'll go over that's required is the SAS 114 letter. I'm not sure if everybody would have that in front of them this evening, but I'll just go over the primary purpose of that is to convey whether or not we had any disagreements or difficulties working with management over the course of the audit. So I'm happy to report that we did not have any difficulties or disagreements, and that is exactly what you'll find in the body of that letter.
Monica, let me interrupt just a second. The letter and the management letter are both in your packet. They're not in the printed copy.
137.
Please go ahead.
So everybody does have a copy of the audit in front of them, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you wanted to turn to page 4, that's the independent auditor's report. That's going to have the Lauterbach and Amen letterhead in the top left-hand corner. So this letter states that management's responsibility is to prepare the financial statements, and then it's our responsibility to generate an opinion. So I'm happy to report this year, the village did have an unmodified opinion. That is the cleanest form of opinion and the highest level of assurance that we can issue. This ultimately states that the financial statements are free of material misstatement and there's sound controls over internal controls within the financial reporting. On page 8 through 18, this is the management discussion and analysis. This is a great narrative summary of everything that happened within the fiscal year. We definitely understand that financial statements are difficult to read and comprehend. So this section does break everything out into words, charts, and graphs. We highly encourage the board read this at your leisure. We do have some cold fall nights coming up. So again, Thanksgiving break, if you've got nothing to do, no family to see, again, there you go. You got an audit to read. On page 29 starts your fund level income statements for the governmental funds, if you wanted to turn to that page. So this page ultimately shows what is budgeted for on an annual basis. I'll start with the general fund. So you'll see about midway through the page, there's a line that says excess of deficiency of revenues over under expenditures. So that's essentially the operating income for the year. So you'll see the general fund had approximately $268,000 of operating income. That's prior to any debt issuances or transfers out. And fiscal year ending fund balance was about $2.16 million. That's an increase of $370,000 from the prior year. I'll scoot over just a few on page 30. So the capital projects fund. The transportation impact fees, that had an operating income of $114,000 approximately, ending balance fund balance of $1.2 million. And public use is right next to that again, 70,000, operating income 397. Ending fund balance, and I did skip, I'm sorry, the TIF fund. So that one had a deficiency of about $10,000, and fund balance at the end is negative 347. Next, on page 35, you'll see the same information for the water and garbage funds. So operating loss for the water fund this year was 541,000 approximately, with an ending fund balance still very healthy, 46.6 million. And the garbage operating income was 16,000, ending fund balance of 665,000, I'm sorry. Any questions on those numbers? Okay. Following these numbers are the notes to the financial statements, where you'll find investment information for the village, capital asset detail, long-term debt, IMRF and pension information. And again, it's going to kind of detail out the numbers we just talked about. And in the back of the report, you'll see the budget to actual reporting as well as statistical information if you wanted to look through that at your leisure as well. Next, I will go over the management letter. So one of the current year recommendations is GASB 87. So that is a new GASB that's coming due in terms of leases. So at this time, there's nothing to do for that. We will work directly with Lori, and we'll probably start at the preliminary process. We just start gathering all lease information in a separate folder, any repayment schedules for that. So that's that will be implemented as of April 30th, 2023. The next management letter is funds over balance. So again, that will list out any funds that went over their budget within the fiscal year. The fund balance, which I mentioned previously, was for the TIF fund. And prior recommendations were commingled cash and escrow deposits and deposits held for refund, which were cleaned up and are being cleaned up throughout the year. And I foresee those being removed next year. Any questions on that?
Does anyone have any questions about the audit or? Okay. Is that all you have for us this evening?
So there is, we're asking you to approve on.
I understand.
Okay.
I was asking if she was,
I'm sorry.
her part was completed, or if there's anything that, then it would be.
That's it for me.
And then do you have anything you'd like to add, Ms. Lyons?
I do not. Sorry.
Does the board have any questions for either the auditor or staff? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to it. Seen it earlier, and going through 127 pages, and it's a little tough to find. There were recommendations on here, and I thought there were more than the two that were just mentioned. That reference things like personnel policy, that reference the commingling of cash.
Those are in the minutes.
There it is. So it's 141. So we've got escrow deposits and deposits held for refund, commingling cash. And then there's also funds with deficient fund balance, funds over budget. There was, why am I missing there was a personnel manual on page 142. What is the current plan to get these remedied? Because I think a lot of these were also in last year's budget too. Is that correct? Or last year's audit as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, so any comments that have prior year recommendation at the top, those are repeated from the prior year.
So current recommendations is just the GASB. Everything else was a recommendation last year and remains a recommendation again this year.
Correct. Although, for example, the commingled cash, Lori and I did speak today. That one, ultimately, the village did move funds around. So in total, the funds are, the commingled cash comment no longer is technically applicable because when Lori pointed something out to me today, the funds in general are positive. So we can reissue the management letter with this one removed because that in fact has been corrected. And then the escrow deposits, it does state that the village should reconcile them. However, again, the village does reconcile them on a monthly basis, which is what Lori mentioned. However, the only thing is that we're still looking through very old escrows that are held for the escrow liabilities that Lori's working on removing from the books because they're no longer applicable at all to the village.
How do you define very old?
Some supersede me. So there was no records of exactly what they were. So we're going back to investigate what those items are.
And so these are financial liabilities still on the books?
Correct.
The developer escrow accounts. For a long time, we weren't reconciling those at all, and now we have about not quite a year because there are findings for the prior fiscal year that ended in this audit. But they are being reconciled every month now. And but there are some out there that they're payables that we presume have been satisfied in any way, but we can't find those journal entries. It's a challenge.
Just one question, I guess, on the, well, I'll stop because my other question's on the process. If anybody has questions about that.
I have one. If they're gonna reissue the management letter, should we hold on accepting it? Or do we accept it based on the issuance of a new management letter?
I think your last count would be appropriate.
Okay.
I
Or is the letter?
hate to disagree.
Yeah, we have some obligations that have to be accomplished.
We'd like to actually accept the audit if you believe that the financial statements are okay, and then reissue the management letter comment.
Yeah, the management letter doesn't get uploaded to the comptroller, so we can definitely move forward with that process as long as you approve the audit itself, because then we can get that uploaded to the comptroller's website, and then we will issue you a separate new management letter comment, just that.
Mr. Mayor, maybe a motion that would accept the audit as presented, with the understanding that a new management letter will be provided.
And as far as these escrow accounts or prior recommendations, to Mr. Kelly's point, I mean, we have a plan to get some of this remedied? I know you're working on the personnel handbook. We've talked about that several times.
Yeah, and that actually, this personal handbook is in all of your hands for review.
Right.
One of you has asked for additional time to comment, so I'm waiting for those comments, but I hope to have that done by the end of the year.
Okay, so we've got.
Back to you shortly after the beginning of the year. And as well on the escrow accounts, I think we've done everything that's normal as far as reconciling the accounts religiously every month. Just like you're getting financial statements every month that we didn't get before. But those last issues are, I mean, it's somewhat like the bank accounts that the state advertises, they ban bank accounts every 10 years or so. But these are actually not, this is not cash and nobody's looking for it. It's obligations that the village has on paper. We're pretty confident have lapsed. So Lori and I talked about it a little bit today, and we're going to be looking for more creative ways to deal with those challenges.
And I don't think that there's any way around the TIF fund being as upside down as it is.
Lori can speak to that.
So each year you will recall that we actually budget a transfer to help remedy this situation. So by the end of the TIF program, we will have to balance it out or even continue to contribute funds even after the TIF is ended to get that fund to zero eventually. But property taxes are also picking up in that area. So, we want to kind of let it ride out to see where we end up.
And we've had conversations with the assessor about our TIF situation.
Yeah, they've been very receptive.
I'm looking at Jay, not you guys. Okay, all right.
So question on the process for the approval or vote for approval or against approval of the audit. what are we saying if we say we approve it? Is it that we agree with every number in here, every analysis in here, and the recommendations of the auditor and the pages of the charts and the analysis, and that we, like, what exactly are we agreeing to on here? And here's why I asked.
Sure.
It's 140 pages, and I've had 2 days to look at it. So I need to know what it is that my vote is going to say, because as of right now, I haven't done a deep analysis of this.
Okay. So what you're being asked to do is agree that the statements presented are not materially misstated. So if you don't feel like you can do that, then you would.
What does that mean, materially misstated?
So, I mean, certainly there are estimates provided in every set of financial statements. The pension liabilities, for instance, which is a huge number. We believe that the actuarial reports and the documentation that has been provided us to put these together does not materially misstate that large liability. I mean, as far as materiality, there's actual calculation that the auditors do to make sure that any type of estimates that are applied, or we have no uncorrected journal entries. You didn't get a list of the journal entries. I believe there were 5. Is that right, Monica?
That sounds about correct, yes.
Some that I prepared after the audit started, and some that they prepared like to record the liabilities and those types of things that we do not do ourselves here. But yeah, that's what you're doing.
Okay, so, and I do want to clarify, I did read the intro, the management letter, as you put it, Monica, the charts and graphs and the beginning of the summarization of the funds, and then the recommendations at the end. That's what I knew about the personnel book and other areas. What I haven't done is gone through the individual line items at the fund level and some of the deeper analysis within here. Even if I were to go through and we had questions on things and questioned whether, you know, why did things end up a certain way, that doesn't materially change what the audit is, correct?
That's correct.
So is the plan then, after we get an audit like this, that we utilize it during the budgeting process to take a look at where we were, what has happened, the trend that's coming in, and then make recommendations for next year's budget? There's no operational things that we do from this, correct? Except for the budgetary process.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Kelly, I would suggest that what you're really doing is you had a chance to review it, at least cursory review. I don't think anybody would expect an elected official, frankly, some of the staff to read every letter and every word in there. But what you are doing is you're endorsing our auditors who told you this is the highest standard of an audit you can receive.
Okay.
That's great, as well as Ms. Lyons and my recommendations that these are good numbers.
And I appreciate that. I'm truly trying to just make sure that I understand what
The
we're being
fiduciary
asked.
responsibility lies with the 3 of us, not with the board.
And then, can you, to what President Reed was talking about, can you speak to what and I may have missed it, sorry, because I was following along on what Monica was saying. What is the variance or the difference between the management letter we have and the updated management letter that will be coming, where it was a potential approval, but wait for an updated management?
So I think the management letter will, like, for instance, for the commingled cash, rather than this saying this comment has not been implemented and will be repeated in the future, it will say this comment has been addressed and will not be repeated in the future.
Okay.
And therefore, next year, unless, we go backwards, it will drop off.
Okay, so then Monica, in your professional opinion, there would be no material change between the current management letter and this one, as far as the confidence of the audit and as Mr. Hedges said, the level to which this audit was approved.
That is correct. I mean, we've detailed tested most of the accounts on the trial balance, so we are confident in those. If we weren't, then obviously, you wouldn't be receiving an unmodified opinion. So anything we needed to be changed, like again, the only adjusting entries we had were probably for IMRF and OPEB, like booking those are our typical 2 entries. And then in terms of the management letter, that is the only change that would happen. For the status, it would say this comment has been implemented, and then it won't show up next year.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you
You're
for.
welcome.
Okay, does anyone else have any? Yes.
And just a couple questions. I'm I know when I came onto the board, we were doing a lot of catch up from past audits, and I know that we're all caught up. When did we finish the last one before we started this one? Was it a full year or was it?
Yes.
It has been, okay, so that was one
It
question.
was like a marathon of audits.
I know, and that's why there was an awful lot to be able to do. So that was the one question, and I can't remember the second. I do want to commend you, Ms. Lyons. You've done an excellent job of catching up on all the audits that were there, on top of this, providing all the materials to the auditor. And I just wanted to publicly recognize you for all the work that you're doing to bring us where we are today.
That's very nice. Some of that falls back to you in that you were supportive in allowing me to get help because it really was impossible to keep up all by myself. So, yeah, I have the support
Well,
that I need now.
While being village manager for 7 years.
So,
Yes.
By the way, Ms. Lyons just returned from 3-day conference on financial, municipal finance, so she's really expert today. Maybe a little more out.
she started.
She was also working full-time, I could tell by my email while she was at the conference. But she managed to get away for 3 days, which was really good.
All right. Does anyone have any questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion to accept the fiscal year 2022 annual audit. So moved. Seconded. Questions, comments, concerns?
If we can have it noted that then we'll have the
Absolutely.
letter updated.
Thank you for that. With the understanding, of course, that the management letter will be updated. Okay, so I have a first and a second.
Ms. Paulson,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Cole,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor. Aye. Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now we would ask your consideration of an ordinance amending the zoning classification of certain property in the village from M Office Manufacturing Zoning District to M2 General Industrial Zoning District. This is Lot 6 of Arrowhead Business Park on Arrowhead Drive by the truck stops. We have with us tonight Brian Bocci, who represents the owner. And this is the project that you're familiar with. You own the Mike Zoll.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you just put it in front of that?
Okay, that sounds good.
Move it up top.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian, you can make the remarks on it. This way.
Oh, maybe not. All right.
It's a challenge.
All right, there we go. All right, there we go. You guys see it?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Of course. So I'm here, Mike Zola couldn't be here tonight, he's out of town, so I'm here to answer any questions, concerns, hopefully I can answer them.
This is the first time that there was a meeting concerning Mr. Gazzola's property. He's not here. In history.
Yeah, right?
Of being a part of the village.
You apologize for not being here.
So we're gonna hold him against him.
Why are we changing the zoning?
Josh, would you like to give a brief summary here?
Sure.
Maybe you could.
Who's board?
No, it's okay. The board, it's just a talking board. It's fine.
Okay.
We know what he looks like.
So, Mr. Gazzola approached staff several weeks ago about potentially rezoning this, for, multiple potential uses, three different potential uses. So there's not a specific user coming into the site that we know of yet. Mr. Gazzola and his partner have asked for this rezoning proactively, similar to how they did for the Hampshire 90 Logistics Park, which they ultimately sold to a different developer. So this rezoning would give them the flexibility to proceed with any of the three different concepts that are in your packet. One of which is kind of a standard industrial building. One of them is kind of a multi-tenant industrial warehouse style building. And then the third is kind of a high-end truck parking place where there would be fencing and landscaping and security system. And those spaces would be rented out for parking storage. So that's the reason for the rezoning. None of those are currently allowed as they would like to do it in current zoning district. And the agenda supplement has a little bit of analysis as far as what's around that parcel. There's vacant land and the concrete plant and other what we see as future industrial property, so it's not like this is right next to a downtown commercial or anything of that nature. That's all I really have to add.
I would just add that staff has met with Mr. Bocci and Mike Izzola. We think it's a good use for that location. It's an area where truck traffic is welcome. And in fact, the businesses up there appreciate it. And we have plenty of traffic control management.
Can you speak to a little bit? I mean, this is more and more what property owners are approaching the village about in general, correct? And the
Yes.
fact that like years ago, the pieces of property would be zoned, whatever they were zoned or not even annexed. And now things are changing and
We have two things that we're finding. I'll probably forget the second one before I get there. But one is that people want property that's ready to go. It's zoned and properly for their use. And they want it to be annexed and ready to build on. So it's really, that's what they're doing here. They're being proactive. This is also a kind of an odd shaped parcel, as you can see. We've had other people inquire about vacant land available in the building, in the village. We've known that this property was available for some time, for sale. We met with the owner almost 2 years ago. And so we knew it was available, and this, we think it's a good thing that's being utilized at this point. And this area is ideal for that type of thing.
do we have any questions, comments, concerns?
I don't have any concerns with a couple of the proposals. It's just in the application itself, and I hate to nitpick, Mr. Hedges. It says on the application, is the applicant the owner of the subject property, and no is checked. And it says if the applicant is not the owner of the subject property, a written statement from the owner authorizing the applicant to file the development application must be attached. And there's no letter in here, and I think he is the owner.
Actually, I don't think he's closing the property.
We do have that letter from the current owner. I apologize, I didn't make it in your
So
packet.
we do have that it would
Yes.
be amended into this, that we have written approval from the owner of the property.
It won't be a part of the ordinance, but it is a part of the submittal that they submitted, yes.
Okay,
We do have the current owner's written approval.
we do, okay. I didn't see it in here, and so seeing that, I wanted to make sure that we were able to approve this.
Can I jump onto that and just say, that was my question, who is the actual owner? Because that wasn't anywhere.
It's a LLC, I believe, of some sort. We met with the owner. I don't remember his name.
Do you remember who you're buying it from?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, put me on the spot here. It's an LLC, one guy that bought it at a tag
I
sale.
think I have a copy.
So you guys are applying for the rezoning because you're purchasing the property to have it developed,
Correct.
They have a contingent contract.
Right.
contingent on the rezoning.
Same thing is happening at Old Dominion, same thing at Hampshire 90.
You got it.
All right.
We'll see who gets there first. Mr. Kelly.
Yeah.
Current owner is Ripple Creek LLC of Chicago.
And I can't remember the guy's first name or last name, sorry.
Okay,
Actually, they're in La Fox, Chicago.
entertain a motion amending the zoning classification of certain property within the village from OM Office Manufacturing Zoning District to M2 General Industrial Zoning District, Lot 6 of the Arrowhead Business Park. Ordinance 22-30.
I'll make your motion, subject to, receiving the owner's written statement.
It's on file with the clerk already.
Okay.
Yes, I have a first.
Second.
Second. Any other questions, comments, or discussion?
This is just, the concept plans aren't necessarily what it's going to be. It's just,
Correct.
we're just changing the zone. You're just
Yeah.
showing what could.
What could be, you got it.
So it's not like you're saying you're making it into a truck parking. lot.
Correct, right.
Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Robinson. Aye. Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Mock.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
All right.
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you,
coming this
everyone.
evening.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Mayor, we would ask for we would ask your. At this point, we have follow-up presentation from the last board meeting of a revised concept plan for Prairie Ridge. No formal action to be taken tonight as the last time. First of all, I'd like to thank you on behalf of staff for your comments, and for those of you who had contact with me since the last meeting, and conveyed that information on to Crown. And at this point, I'll introduce Dan Olson, who will introduce his staff and talk a little bit about the new plan. You do have before you this document, which was left on the dais for each of you, that compares the current presentation to what we did, and Crown results will also show you some similar numbers in the presentation on the board behind Dan.
Welcome back.
We're back.
Are you sick of coming here again?
What's that?
Are you sick
Oh,
of
no, I
coming
love coming here. I've been doing it for 17 years. No, I absolutely do. First, I do want to echo what Jay just said. I really appreciate the feedback that we heard from you all 2 weeks ago, especially Mayor, your efforts in facilitating that feedback. Very important for us, as I explained, our next step is going into preliminary engineering. That's very expensive. So having that feedback means a lot to us. I know it took a lot of your time that night, but it was, in our view, very, very important. I want to assure you that we heard you. There's a lot discussed, but I would say the 2 things that we heard the loudest were 44-foot lots and affordability. So we went back to the drawing board, literally, and working with our planner and the rest of us on our team, and we think we came up with a plan which addresses those comments, those issues. And so we thought we'd give a short presentation tonight to explain those comments, but also to discuss a little bit. We had some discussions about product, what fits on those different size lots. So we thought we'd show you some products that may or may not be built on these lots, but certainly has been built in the Chicagoland area on these different size lots. So with me tonight again is Chris Netz, heads up our sales and strategy department, and Drew Wright, who's going to give the presentation. So with that.
All right, good evening. Appreciate you guys allowing us to come back again. So I'll just give a quick presentation on the changes in the concept plan. If Josh would go to the next slide. So I'm sure you have it in your packet right now. This is the new concept plan, and then the next couple of slides we'll go through. I will explain the exact changes and where they were at. Next slide, please. So here's what was presented a couple weeks ago. Townhome lots are still 32%. We got rid of the 40-foot wide lots, and replaced them with a mixture of 51-foot wide lots and 56-foot wide lots, keeping some of the 66-foot wide lots and 71-foot wide lots. And I'll explain the numbers that changed, because we kind of did shift some things around, especially in that northwest third over there. Next slide, please. So this is a northwest side, this area right here. So what we did, these were originally 66, these are now 56. This whole area right here were 71 footers. We split it in half. So this south side of this road right here is going to remain 71. And then we shifted the 66 to over here. The reason why we did that again is we kind of look at each section as a phase, like this is a phase, this is a phase, and this is a phase. That way we have all product types in one section. So we have townhomes, transition to the 56, transitions to the 66, to the 71s, and then the active adult portion up top. You go to the next slide, please. And then again, the other big change, the only change on this side, just south, is the 44 foot became 51 foot. And then moving to the east of Harmony Road on the next slide. The 44s in this opening area right here, right off the main entrance, are now 56-foot wide lots. And the next couple of slides will show just some examples of homes that would fit with the 7.5 yard foot setbacks. So these are just a mixture of builders in the Chicago area. D.R. Horton, they're currently building this in Wonder Lake and down in Joliet. K. Hovnanian Homes, they built this home in Hawthorne Woods. And then to the right, we've talked with Ryan. They have a similar plan that could accommodate 51-foot wide lot, and then Pulte, they have a ranch series out there too that would be able to fit on those lots as well. Next slide, please. Here's a few examples that could fit on the 56-foot wide lot. Silverthorne and Ryan, some of their plans that they're currently building, Prairie Ridge, would be able to fit on those lots. And of the remaining big builders like Pulte, MI Homes, Lennar, and Horton, they all have standard footprints that would be able to fit on those type of lots. And those square footages would range anywhere from 1,800 square feet to probably as big as 2,900 square feet. So Pulte right there in the middle, they kind of have built that everywhere around the Chicago area. MI, they currently just opened up in South Elgins and Beckett's Landing. They're building that home on a 53-foot wide lot and a 63-foot wide lot. Lennar, they currently build that type of home. Not all the homes Lennar is offering at Tame will fit on a 56-foot lot, but half of them will. And then Horton, of course, they have that home right there is in Highland Woods in Elgin. That will also fit on a wide lot. Next slide, please. Again, here's just, I mentioned MI Homes and Beckett's Landing in South Elgin. Again, they have 2 lot types there, 53 footers and 63. And then they're also offering about 180 townhomes as well. They just broke ground. So they have almost 350 units. That's 3.9 dwelling units per acre there. And then D.R. Horton is moving dirt now in Pingree Grove. They have 40-foot wide lots, 57-foot wide lots, active adult set, a mixture of single family detached active adult, and then these kind of quadplex townhome ranch active adult townhomes. And then they have 440 market rate townhomes. Again, they're putting 986 units on 292. And coincidentally, that comes out to 3.9 units per acre. And then the last slide, just highlighting just sales that's going on at Prairie Ridge. Last year, Ryan did 36 sales. This year through October, they have 30. So things are slowing down. So I bet they finished the year with 32, maybe 33. I can't predict. They haven't had any sales reported to us this month yet, so maybe they get 32, 33. Silverthorne, they've been a little bit slower this year. And then D.R. Horton is opening up soon with their townhomes in Prairie Ridge. And that concludes my presentation, so I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments.
You talked also then about affordability and how that was addressed. I didn't hear that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why we kind of, instead of like changing the 44s to just 56 or 51, we kind of split it up because that would help. Because now you have kind of specific target markets.
Can you explain that? Because I'm struggling with that part of this plan. Because I feel like the board gave very clear feedback on one particular lot size, and now we've got different lot sizes that weren't a part of this equation that now are. So can you explain how that helps with the affordability? Like when you talk about the numbers that we talked about last time, trustee Fodor, what was the numbers we were struggling with last meeting? They were pretty high on the average home prices.
Yeah, hold on.
280,
Yeah, it was 94,000 for a $280,000 home.
94.5 annual income.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, so when you take 10 foot off a lot size, how does that impact a home price? Any real dollars?
It can impact it in a lot of different ways. For starters, typically the home is going to be smaller, therefore the price point is going to be pressed down because of that.
I don't know, I'm struggling with this only for the fact that between 51 and 56 or 60 and 66 and 56, I don't necessarily see a difference in product in every case.
The homes that were gonna be on the 44-foot wide lots will now be on the 51-foot wide lots. So,
And or 51 foot as well.
44-foot product for the previous plan would now go on a 51-foot wide lot. Same home.
And in the staff analysis, key point one, specific to that, says 51-foot wide lots for rent. Are these built to rent or are these going to be sold as single family?
Well, I think, like we indicated last time, it'll be market driven, but it could be either.
They're indicated as rentals on this plan.
Yeah,
Yeah, so according to the plan that we're talking about, they are rentals.
That's not an obligation, but that's what they're presenting tonight.
That's my question. That's what's
Yes.
presented tonight.
Yeah.
So then the smallest homes that would have been the most affordable are actually rental homes, according to this plan as presented tonight.
Which I believe, in our discussions, rental was considered more affordable.
But that's,
No, you're right. I appreciate the changes, because I was expecting them to be different size. It wasn't gonna be all the same size lots, so I appreciate that there's an option there from the 144 to the 151. And then, as they said, the rest of them then went to the 156, to the 56 inch lots there. As you said, the units that were gonna be on the 44-foot lots, then moving to the 56 lot ones. Obviously, then that's a little bit more land, or is it just repositioned? And is there a change in the 280,000 target price to less, or it stays the same? It's
stays
just
the same.
wider, so.
Right.
Correct.
There's
Okay,
just a lighter lot.
okay,
Trying to strike the balance between all the feedback we got from all to say, how can we give you bigger lots but also maintain affordability? With the new mix that we have, if you notice, obviously we went up by, I think, 9 units. So, but the overall mix of lots does introduce more affordability. That also, given different product ranges, we're able to financially, in our financials, allocate a 51-foot lot to what would have been a product on a 44-foot lot. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does, it does. Did you, in the process of moving all this, did you lose green space?
No, that remained untouched.
Okay.
Sorry, actually, sorry.
No, that's good.
Yeah, the lots were just repositioned, green space, open space, trail system stayed the same.
Okay, I was trying to compare them between the two, and it's really hard when they're this small to understand that, so.
And I think it was you, trustee Palestrini, who had mentioned in the northwest corner, you didn't want that to feel sort of inherently different from the other, neighborhoods. So we tried to introduce another lot size within that section so that it would be, as we progress in the community, you'd have the different product types available. And again, as we mentioned last time, that kind of is the best attempt to make the community adaptable to different housing markets.
Thank you.
You mentioned the product that would have gone on the 41-foot lot is now going on the 56. Does that then increase the distance between the homes from 7.5, well, I guess 15 feet? That would increase the distance between the homes? Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that also increase the price? Because now you're selling off more land to the same?
No.
you just told me that it was. So trustee Fodor just asked the question, if you're taking a house on a 20, that was supposed to go on a 44-foot lot, putting it on a 51-foot lot, and then you asked the point of question, doesn't that change the price? And they said no. But when I asked the question, what the cost difference was between the 44-foot or the 66-foot lot and a 56-foot lot in real dollars, you said there was a cost savings. But then you said to this trustee right here that there's not cost savings. What is it?
44 to the.
I am very clear in my questions here, sirs. I would like to know the difference between buying a home on a 56-foot lot and a 66-foot lot. It's not the same answer because you just told her that there's no cost difference to the home buyer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so your question from 56 to 66-foot lot, correct?
Yes.
Right. There could be some overlap between prices. But typically with a wider lot, you might get a wider home, or a deeper home bigger square foot. Typically, the more square footage the home is, the more it's gonna cost. So these 66-foot wide lots are gonna offer bigger homes. So typically, the average base price will be a little bit higher than what they would be at the 56.
But if they're the same identical product, there's no difference in price to the home buyer.
If there's the same product, yes, potentially there could be overlap between products offered on each type of lot.
What we'll do is, our job is to, when we get different builders in the community, is to try to segment it, to say, on this product type, we're only gonna allow hypothetically, 1,800 to 2,300 square feet. The next one, we're gonna do 2,400 square feet to 2,700 square feet, for example. And that's how we sort of keep all this plate spinning, if you will. In other words, our goal is to make each builder successful. We don't want them coming in and sort of cannibalizing themselves because there's overlap. Not to say that there couldn't be some, but we try to segment it so that we make everybody successful. Mr. Mayor, to answer your question, we have within our financials, we'll look at each lot type. How much can we sell each lot type for? Would we typically sell a larger lot for more money? Yes, we would, of course, based on our costs. But within, if you take, the whole community and the whole mix, what we're saying is we're trying to position it so that we can still maintain a 40-foot home price on a 51-foot lot. The whole goal with this was to try to, we heard the feedback from all the different trustees and to try to find that balance of, we had some trustees that said we don't like the 44-foot lots. We had some that said we do. We had some that said, we want bigger lots. So this was our way to sort of appease everybody, but also reassure you that we're going to maintain affordability by selling that 51-foot wide lot with the same product as would have been a 44. I hope that helps.
I guess, pardon me, and I'm more going to address the board for just a minute. I know we had, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought one of our concerns was the number of homes was increasing. And we didn't like the fact that it was 1,978 lots. Do you remember that discussion, or am I remembering it?
That was
incorrectly?
The overall density of the homes within the area was one of the things I think that was raised, and that was either a result of the 44-foot or just there were a lot more homes in here than there had been before and providing services. So that was part of the discussion.
Okay, because I noticed we've gone up by 9. Not that 9 is a huge number when we're talking about 2,000. Not at all, but I'm just making sure that I remember that correctly.
And just to jump in on that then too, is which went into my question, did we lose the green space?
Mhm.
Because the concept, as I had originally understood when we were talking about it, was that there would be smaller lots there, but people would be able to go off their property and enjoy the open space in the different areas. So if they were making the lots a little bit different, I wanted to be sure then that we kind of stuck with the same open space area.
Yeah. So
I commend trustee Kelly for catching your first proposal that significantly changed from the 2015 agreement. The lots changed significantly, and trustee Kelly was the only one on the board that caught it. He's the only one that caught it.
What, 2015?
The 2005 agreement that was signed by that board that was currently here and crowned to accept their proposal on that. Their first proposal before us, everything changed. But we weren't told that. The only one that caught it was trustee Kelly.
I think we did discuss that. I mean, I was here in 2005. We did, we acknowledged the number of lots that were added to this plan. But we also had a lot of discussion, you may recall, regarding the buyer, right? It's a different buyer today. They don't want those big lots that we had in 2005. And there's a lot of discussion about that. We discussed affordability a lot, right, as well. To the density issue, we talked about cluster development, right? That's what this is. I mean, this is roughly 2 DU per acre, right? That's historically low. You have new subdivisions within the community that are higher than that, significantly higher than that. So 50% open space or near 50% open space, you know, you have smaller lots that goes with it, but really it's the overall density is.
And I'm not trying to offend Crown or anything like that, but Mr. Hedges and I had a conversation after that first meeting that we had. And the original plan and agreement was sent out right after the fact, but it should have been prior to. We acknowledge that should have happened because there were many of us that weren't around back then. And so that was as much on, I'm sorry, I don't like to push the bus over on staff, but that was much on us as it was Crown at the time, because we should have sent that agreement out.
And that was 2 meetings ago at the very first one.
Correct.
2 weeks ago.
That's what we're saying. And that agreement did go out, but it would have been made for a better discussion if we would have had it prior. And we discussed that and that won't happen again. And so I'm not chastising staff. I'm just saying that it won't happen again.
I'd like to make another comment to the board, just something that I'm noticing here, the 71-foot lots, you know, there's fewer of those, a significantly fewer number.
72.
Well,
There's 72
71
less.
Yep.
on this, oh, you're telling me 72 here, got it, okay,
There's
so,
72 less.
Sorry.
yeah, which is, you know, speaks to the concept of who's buying this home. Again, thank you, I do appreciate that. And then as we look at the different percentages, the 66-foot lots look to be about the same percentage. There are a couple fewer of those, but then, you know, we've divided up the 44s into that 51 and 56. And taken some of those 71s then and pushed them down the line. Is that about right? Am I understanding that correctly? Yeah.
Yes.
There are many fewer of the 71.
Right.
And then that opens up some of the things to be distributed differently there.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that
So
mostly
we still
took place in that northwest.
In that
quadrant.
northwest corner, okay. So although we do have more, there are more affordable ones available.
Correct.
Is that
Correct.
still with the open space? Okay.
So I don't have questions. I just have feedback. So I just asked to be heard.
That's what we're here for.
A couple of things. One, thank you for coming back a third time, bringing the feedback and making some changes. I appreciate that. And thank you to Mr. Hedges for finding a property and sharing that with 52-foot lots, another 5-foot setbacks. Thank God we're not doing 5-foot setbacks. So that I could go physically see what that community looks like, and that's Highland Woods, which I believe is a Crown
It's us.
development, and then Ryan Builder on it. And I'm on the Ryan site just for the board's edification. Those ranch homes on 52-foot lots, which is a foot larger than the one here, but that's okay if it's 6 inches on the side, right? The base level on a slab, just so when we're talking about affordability, we know in the current market with no additional options, it starts from $312,990 plus. So when we're talking about affordability, I'm just trying to level set the board that that's a current market from Ryan Homes on a 52-foot with a 5-foot setback. And that's a 1,400 square foot ranch home. That's in Highland Woods, which is right off 20 past the dog.
Pet lodge.
Yeah, it's a country kennels.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did drive through there. Thank you very much for that. That put a lot in perspective. I think with a 7-foot setback, which adds an extra 1.5 feet to each side, it's still going to be pretty close, but I guess I could see that there's a market. Would I buy something like that? That's not the question. The question is it dense? It still is pretty dense, but when I look at this, I had a couple of things. One is I have concerns that the feedback on the size of the lot was that I provided was on the 44-foot. I think there were others that shared some of that side. And so I appreciate that those have come off this proposal and that it's gone up in some cases to the 44s were transitioned to 51s. And there were some that have moved into the 56 because there's 146 51 foots and there were 239 44. So it's a blend of those two types that it went up to. But then I have a concern that the 71-foot went down by 72, the 66-foot went down by 8, and the 66-foot active adult went down by 2. Minuscule, like a small number, but that's fine. And we ended up with more homes, which led me to believe, my perception, that there's a goal of the total number of lots in this community that we're working towards. And we're trying to keep closer to that 1345, 1346 number for whatever the financial projections are. But when you take out so many of the home sites that nobody had any concerns on, the 71 foot and 66, and then bring those towards the 56, because there are a bunch of the six in those northwest quadrants, there were a bunch of the 71 foots across the road between like NC, their neighborhood C, that went down to the 66 foot, and then right across from them, all of those went from 66 to 55. So that doesn't, when we talk about the, and maybe this is just comments, or when we're hearing that it's, I want to offer, or we want to offer the different types of homes in every single of the communities, we still don't have any 51s out there. So it's 3 of the types of homes. So, you know, for me, it seems more like we're trying to hit a total number of lots, and how can we do that? Because I don't really know why we took out 71 foot and 66 foot when nobody had any concerns about those. So I do have a serious concern about that, because that makes me believe then that we're actually going for a total number of lots. Now, the open space, I really appreciate. I really like that, but I also understand it's not buildable land without a ton of work to it, because it's floodplain. There are some good community parks in there and some good throughout, and I really love that part of it. I think that's great, and I really appreciate those are in there. But your big blocks on the left and on the bottom, those are floodplain. You can't build on it anyway. And so those are gonna be green space. So the areas where we are buildable, we've taken some area that was a little more spread out, and now it's, I shouldn't say we, the concept has taken some area that is a little more spread out and put it together. So I do have some concerns on that. Overall, I really do appreciate you taking another swing and that there are no 44s on there. I do have a concern though, that my last concern I will raise is that the smallest lot that would have been the most affordable home are listed as rentals in this proposal as proposed. I know it doesn't necessarily have to go there, which to me is not really in line with these are the most affordable for people to buy. That's going to be a larger corporation or developer. Maybe developer is the wrong one, builder. I don't know who buys the 146 homes or patches of them to have them as rental properties, but that's going to be a large corporation. That's not, you know, somebody that's starting out and wants to buy their first home. So really the first home people can buy, according to this proposal, is the 56 foot. And at current market rate, for a 52 foot, I'm looking at 313,000, give or take, for a base model 1,400 square foot. So I just would ask that we stop talking about this being affordable housing and just talk about it as a community development with different types of properties on it that we're hoping to develop on here, because I may have a different definition of affordable housing, but if the smallest, most affordable things become corporate owned rentals, that to me isn't motions. I hope there's no offense taken. This is just my
No,
feedback.
that's the feedback we're looking for.
And I do appreciate you taking another swing at this. I really do. And coming back for a third time with board feedback, but I will leave it at that for right now. That's my.
Just to address a few of those comments. It did work out. We're 7 lots higher or whatever it is. We weren't striving to hit a number. We were trying to address the affordability concerns that were raised last time, right? Because a big house on a 70-foot lot is more expensive than a house on a smaller lot. So we also talked about diversifying the product, you know, responding to the market. Drew gave you a ton of examples locally about houses that fit on these lots, you know, so you can't do, you know, to your question, Mr. Mayor, you can build a small house on a big lot, but you can't build a big house on a small lot, right? So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to address that affordability issue, but at the same time, address the concerns about the 44-foot lots. So that's what that was. I want to be clear that we weren't trying to shoot for a number.
I understand.
Yeah.
You're looking to have more homes on the smaller size lot than maybe was before.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's. I understand that approach. And I will say, driving through the Highland Woods on those smaller lots, somebody looking to downsize, those are decent sized homes on a smaller lot. There were some that, you know, it was noticed that in one of the homes, they had some really nice landscaping, but when you bump out a landscape, now you're down to like 6 inches or a foot between the property line and the home. So, but that's somebody's cup of tea, and that's great. It just, if think I wouldn't have had any feedback if it was just you took the 41s and made them 51s or 56s or a blend and you're like, hey, we're gonna have a couple different. But you have to understand my perspective when the total number stayed the same because you took out some of the bigger ones. And even took, I mean, the active adult kind of stayed the same, but it's, you understand my perception.
Sure, absolutely.
Questions, comments? Anybody else? My turn? Okay. So, I don't know how to say this without sounding offensive, so don't take it that.
We won't. We're developing, we're used to it.
We had a problem, this board had a problem with 44-foot lots. And you took away the ones that we didn't have a problem with. And you're saying it's for the tone of affordability, and I'm sorry. I mean, I feel like for years, we've known each other for years. You guys have been a great partner to this community. But I feel like I see this and it feels like we were like negotiating in bad faith. And I don't mean it to seem that, I don't mean to offend you, but I'm just saying that we talked about 44-foot lots. And then you're taking away 71-foot lots, and then now we've got a 56-foot lot. And I spoke this board spoke very passionately several times about creating a problem or setting a new standard or setting a precedent of that nature. And then, 44 was a big number for us to even to think about. I mean, you guys have been great with the side yards. We knew that was going to be a non-starter. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling the fact that the 71-foot lots went away to make room for another lot that we didn't ask for. We specifically asked for, I'm not right, okay, I'm not gonna say we, I'm sorry, but I specifically had a problem with the 44-foot lots, and then it's like, okay, well, we'll do that, but it's like, but now we're gonna take away the other ones, and I don't feel right about it. That's the part where I'm struggling.
I can assure you, Mr. Mayor, we weren't trying to negotiate in bad faith. I apologize if you feel that way. We were seriously trying to address the concerns that we heard, right? But I appreciate your comments and your responses. Same with Mr. Kelly, Trustee Kelly.
So I'm confused here. The 44-foot lot were taken away.
Correct.
But the 44-foot lots were gonna be rentals. So now the 51-foot lot, a little bigger, 7 feet, is a rental. So between the 44 to the 51, they were both rentals. So what's changed?
No, some of the 44s, it was mixed. It was presented as some may be rental and some were for purchase. And now all 51s in the staff analysis plan is that they are all presented as rentals. So before it was a little bit mixed up.
I didn't want to dig out my old paper and go through it, so.
It's my understanding too, and correct me then, because when we had all these 44-foot lots in one particular area, if you're going to make them 51 or 56, you need more land. So if you need to get more land, then you've got to move some of those houses someplace else.
So you shrink the 71 foot amounts.
Which is what they did then, so we've got fewer than of the 71 so that we can have the addressing of the 44-foot lots to make them larger. So that was my understanding the whole time, is that we were going to move things around and that there would be fewer bigger lots because the focus was more on the smaller one, but not 44 feet. But in order to address that, it was my understanding you were going to have to move lots around and pull from where there was more land. Am I understanding that correct?
Yeah.
I'm not explaining it very well.
No, you are. I mean, we heard loud and clear, 44-foot lots, 44, we raised those up to 51.
Okay.
But yes, we did making those changes, to address affordability issue. We reduced, we still have a lot of 71s, right? But we reduced those 71s. It's why Drew, showed this diversity of the product was nothing. We added another product here, 2 different new products. We got rid of the 44s, we added the 51s, but also trying to address the market, right? We wanted to make sure that we had a good mix of the different size lots. So yeah, there was a change. There's fewer 71s now, but there's still a good deal of them, but also it diversifies. what we're
And
selling.
I would recommend that the board, if you haven't driven through Highland Woods, you have to go all the way. These home lots are all the way in the back. They are not the ones you see up against Tony, so let's just be honest.
Look for the range.
And you have to go all the way to the back on the main road. The homes look really nice, like they are great for somebody that would want to downsize or somebody that wants a smaller house. They look really nice. With a 7-foot setback, they would look even nicer. But they do look really nice. So I'm not speaking ill of the product itself, but to your question about moving things around, if you have 44s and you're making 51s on that, then you have to find 7 feet. So actually, you don't have to move other product around. What you end up doing is losing a lot for every 6.5 or 7 homes that you put at 50 feet, because you got to take that from another lot. So in an area that maybe you had 100, this is probably really wrong math, 100 homes, you end up with, let's say, 85 homes instead of 100 because of the 100 lots.
Right.
So you wouldn't have to take from another neighborhood somewhere else to make land, because you just end up with less lots. But from A to B, we actually increased.
And that's where I struggle. And I'm sorry, that's how it looks like you're trying to hit that number. Because we came to you with a problem with the specific lot size, and to trustee Kelly's point, you could have lost.
And they have a certain number, that they have to hit to make this financially feasible.
Well, we don't. To be honest with you, this is not like,
You're the first
This is-
developer that's ever said that.
well,
I've
I'm gonna just be completely
projects.
transparent. This community, we've owned this for how many years?
17 years.
We're beyond any kind of a return on this property. We are well beyond that. We are simply here. We're 20 years into this property trying to make this more viable so we can build more homes in the village. If y'all are saying that, and I'm trying to isolate what I believe to be the most common feedback here. If y'all are saying that we reached hopefully a compromise, except you're not happy that we converted these from 71s to the 66s, we're happy to change these back to 71s. Does it help for affordability of the entire mix as a whole? No. But if that's the common thread, we're happy to accommodate.
Now, I ask you this question because we've run into this in the past. Is this another 100-foot lot situation where, when you get to that time, you're gonna be coming back to the board because you know you're not gonna be able to sell those?
No, first off, I hope not. First off, first reason, I hope it's not 17 years from now, right? First and foremost. But no, we got to react to the market, right? We got to put out there what they're buying. Again, Drew showed you what's selling right now. Will the market change in the future? Yeah. Do I think it's getting bigger? No. I mean, you know better than I do, right?
Right.
Again,
We're trying to.
Chris, can I interject? a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Before you go on.
Sure.
I think Chris made an important comment up here. Can we get some feedback on that before we move on? Because I do want to point out that, Mr. Mayor, you were very concerned about the reduction in 71 and 66-foot lots. They still exist. There are only 8 fewer 61-foot lots, 66-foot lots.
Yes.
There are, maybe 75?
72.
72 less of the 71s, and Chris has offered to move those back. So I think it's important that we get some feedback.
I'm more comfortable with that, me personally. And I don't know about the rest of the board.
Well, that's going to end up fewer lots overall in the big picture.
And
It should end
again,
up.
we were not striving to get a number. I know it looked.
I'm just making a statement.
Yeah.
Don't disagree with my statement, but
Yeah.
you can disagree with the facts if you want. That will end up with this fewer lots than.
Correct. It'll reduce the lot count.
Yes.
On the flip side of that, though, if you put in more 71-foot lots, there's more expensive homes that are gonna go in that neighborhood, making the neighborhood overall less affordable. So by cutting that 71 down, 75 homes, essentially overall, it's more affordable on paper, but the more you have, the more expensive it gets.
I understand.
So that's potentially less.
I asked for the 44 to drop off. I'm happy with the presentation they've given.
Okay, trustee Fodor,
Okay.
with as it is, as they present this evening?
Yeah.
Now's the time. It's not just my village, guys. This is ours. Let's figure this out.
I'm okay with the way it is now,
Okay?
but I think it would be of interest to hear what's the middle ground between these two proposals. Does that make any sense to anybody else? Is anybody interested in that? Because I'm okay with the way it is, but what I'm hearing from everybody else is that, yeah, those two sections and the reduction thereof concerns you. Is it density or is it cost?
It's gonna be harder to sell a 71 foot lot.
It is. And the less you have, the more spread out your homes are gonna be. You're not gonna be 15 feet from house to house as.
So if they raise the 71 foot, if you look at your chart, they raise the 71 foot lot, they add more, they're taking away from something else.
The more affordable ones.
The more affordable
Would be
ones.
kicked out, so.
So we went from the 44, which was too small, and the old board swore up and down for 8 years. We heard no small lots, no cookie cutter stuff. So they listened to us. They went from 44 to 51 and added 56. So if you want to add more 71s, they're taking away from something else. They're taking away from the affordable ones that we all said we wanted. They have to. You only got so much ground. We put so much stuff in a 5-gallon bucket.
Which begs the question, which one are we more concerned about? Density or affordability?
It's a tough thing to think about what's gonna happen in the future, right?
Overall, I'm in favor of affordability.
Okay.
And they took away the 44 and they went to 51, which, 7 feet might not seem like a lot, but it's 3 specs with your mower.
Trustee Quill, would you feel better if some of those 51-foot lots were for sale instead of rentals?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, that was for you.
I don't know, because some corporation, Jimmy's not gonna come in and buy this, it's gonna be like Trustee Kelly said, a corporation's gonna come in and do this. Now, they're gonna have to manage it properly, or the village can crack down on it, correct? So I'm not worried at all.
But that's what they do, they manage these.
Right.
Trustee Matt, what are your feelings?
Yeah, I like the change that was presented, and overall, looking at affordability is where I think we really need to concentrate. Affordability. Not that much difference between the bigger lot and the slightly smaller lot, and I think one of our concerns was, first one was too small, and the other one was getting out of price range. So affordability is where I'm looking for.
Trustee Palastrellini?
I don't want any more of the 71-foot houses because of the price. We have no idea where this market's gonna go in the next few years. Price of the homes can plummet, we don't know that. But I think some of what we wanted to do was to be able to have something that was not super small. A little bit more space to give it a little bit more of an but a little bit more spacious. I would not support the addition of more of the 71-foot lots. I just think it takes it out of the price range, so.
Trustee Kelly?
On the bigger lots, I can go either way. We're talking about a 5-foot difference between 71 and 66, so that doesn't really bother me. What I was giving on some of the feedback was my perception of how we got to specific numbers and why things were changed. When there's not a problem and something has changed and it wasn't a problem, you wonder why it was changed. On the smaller lots, I'm sorry, we keep talking about affordability, but if every single 51-foot most affordable piece of property in this is a rental, we are not talking about affordability.
That's right.
We're not. So I am not okay with 51-foot lots being rental properties. I'm not. Yeah, a large corporation is going to take care of the properties, hopefully. We have ordinances to make sure that they do, or we can hold them accountable for that, fine. But we can't sit here and say we're talking about affordability and then be okay that the
46.
in my opinion, the 146 lots that would have been the most affordable are gonna be bought by a corporation to then rent and make a profit off of. Because then those people aren't owning a home, we're not.
But didn't we just approve a housing project
For
right down,
townhomes,
down the street, single family rentals?
no, townhomes.
They're townhomes, they're not single
Townhomes,
family.
and those are already in this as well. There are townhomes built to rent and townhomes for sale. I don't have a problem with that. I kind of see that as the difference of a condo and an apartment. Condo is the same thing as apartment, but you buy the condo, you don't buy the apartment, right? But when we're talking about single family homes and a concern of this board is affordability, I have a problem that the most affordable are all rental. So on that aspect, I wouldn't vote, like I wouldn't, I shouldn't say I wouldn't vote. This doesn't align to what I feel the goals we're trying to achieve are. The larger lots, 5 foot, I can take or leave. I was providing my feedback that there was an area without a problem that got changed. It made it look like we're trying to hit large numbers. That was just my feedback.
Trustee Kelly, the reason that rentals are affordable is because a lot of people don't have the means to save up a down payment.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have the means to maintain a home. I don't know about you, but my home's coming up in 20 years old. What it's costing and me in the last year to replace my roof, furnace, people just don't have that kind of cash.
No, I totally understand.
Rentals serve that purpose.
And it's not just that. I'm not also beyond the fact that if I were to pay off my home tomorrow, I have to pay the government an $800 a month rental to live in that home called property tax. I get it.
Yeah.
That's just part of owning a home. There are other expenses to it. I'm not ignorant to that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that those that could buy, that may have a little bit of a down payment or may be able to put a down payment, and let's not say a little bit of down payment, right? We're talking on a 52-foot lot in a current community with Ryan Homes in a Crown development at a 20% down, you're at $63,000. Yeah, right.
On $280,000 house?
No, I think that's what I shared earlier. The cheapest on a slab without a basement, no option, $312,990 on a 52-foot lot. So who knows where we're going to be in 3 years, in 6 years, in whenever those homes get built, right? Hopefully it goes faster. And I know we're cooling off in the housing market because interest rates are insane. But we still aren't even given the opportunity of people to buy the smaller lots when you say that they're all just going to be rentals. Now we're saying the 56-foot lots, which I guess is an intermediary between you had a choice of 66 or 44, right? So there's a different version. I have a big concern that every one of the most affordable, and I feel like I'm saying the same thing over, so I'm going to stop. The most affordable are all rentals.
We should also be clear that, when we next come before you, it'll be a preliminary plan. That will not identify built for rent, what's built for rent or what's for sale home, right? It's a preliminary plan. Market's going to dictate that. There's going to be a developer who comes in that's going to say they're a built for rent developer or they're build to own builder, I should say. But again, it's responding to what the market is at that time, at that point in time. But to Chris's point, there's a reason we're showing it here, because we think there is a need for that because of the affordability. I know you don't like the word affordability, that's really what it is. If you can't afford to do a down payment or you don't have the credit to get one, I mean, that's your option, right? So we're trying to diversify what, the product to address the high cost, the interest rates, but the cost of homes these days, right? There's also a good segment of the market that no longer wants to own a home, as Chris just mentioned, right? They can afford it, they can get a mortgage, but they don't want to, right? Because they don't want to be a slave to their lawn anymore. They want to travel, they want to do all that stuff. So we're trying to address that as well. So it's as much about affordability with these built for rent as it is trying to address what the market wants.
A lot of millennials and Gen Zs are experiential buyers or renters, I should say. They don't want to maintain a home. They want experiences in their life.
And that decision, I want to be clear, we're not proposing that that's what they're ultimately going to be. We're just trying to be honest with the board, saying that's what we think the market is right now. A good, certain neighborhoods, there's going to cater to those buyers. Other neighborhoods, same size lots, maybe a little bit bigger lots, are going to cater to those folks who want to own a home. That's what we're trying to do here tonight with this plan.
Anybody say something here?
Unfortunately not.
What was can you remind me again, what was the product that was gonna go on the 56-foot lot? Was that the same product that was gonna go on the 44-foot lot?
Should we show it again?
Could you please, because I can't remember that. I know the 44 went to 51 and 56.
Yeah, so let's go back to, if you go back one slide, Josh, please.
These are all real examples, again, in the area.
These right here would have been going on the 44s.
Okay.
They can go on 51s.
And the 56-foot lots.
Yes, and 56-foot lots. Now, like D.R. Horton with that exact plan, they even offer a third car garage, and they're doing that at Runner Lake too.
Okay.
So that was in.
So I got, that's 51s, got it. And the 56, can you give me just a ballpark of square footage from the 51 to the 56?
Yeah, so 51 to the 50, so 51, like the Horton one I was showing you, so they're, like I said, they're building those Joliet Wonder Lake. Those are anywhere from 1,600 square feet to, they managed to get up to 2,200 square feet.
Okay.
Now with the 56 product, starting with the ranch, 1,800 square feet, to some of them can even get up to 2,900 square feet. There's, you know, a lot of the national builders have a specific envelope of a home that offers a wide range of square footages from, like I was just saying, 1,800 square feet. Depending on lot depth, some of them can even go up to 3,200 square feet if lot depth allows.
And my reason for asking is because we did cut those 44s, which was the cheapest option and the most affordable for whatever type, whoever wanted the cheapest option. So we moved that to the 51, and then we have this 56-foot, which is no rentals according to this sheet in front of me. So the square footage went up minimum from 1,600 to 1,800, that's 200 square feet. And it could go from 2,200 all the way up to 3,000 somewhere.
Yeah, it depends on what.
29,000 is what he said.
Yeah, 2,900, but yeah, I mean, if lot depth allows it.
Right.
To get larger.
So I'm not even gonna attempt the math on that home that you referenced earlier and
Oh, yeah.
on what the price per square foot is.
So a 1,900 square foot home in that same development by Ryan is 360, which is called.
Okay, so
It's 359,990, but we'll call it 360.
well, so the price per square foot.
What's
I
that?
mean, when you talk affordability, you go up 200, let's say an average 200 square feet, what?
It's $200.
Okay, so I look at this that we still have 176, 56-foot lots that are still in the affordable range. Yes. And none of them are committed as rentals on this sheet. And yes, it's not the cheapest option in the neighborhood, but it is still a relatively comparable option. I mean, yes, you're gonna pay a little bit more because the square footage is a little bit more. But it's not like you're jumping from a 51-foot to a 71-foot that you're not gonna do. If you're a
Very
first-time
true.
buyer.
Yeah, very true.
And I know there is some give and take with this, so I maybe that is part of that give and take. That
What's the smallest square footage that you're considering?
1,600, you just said.
Yeah,
Take 100 was the
probably.
smallest?
I mean, yeah, it just depends. I mean, every builder has something different, so if they're able to get smaller, they might. I mean,
On an active adult lot, you
Yeah.
could see a 1,450 or 1,500 square feet.
Yeah.
But those are all ranch.
Yes.
That'd be the range, right?
Yeah.
I just have a question actually for our assessor.
Oh, boy.
Is there a difference in how property taxes are calculated if I buy a home in this community, or I'm a corporation and I buy 146 homes to make rental properties? Is the property tax per house calculated the exact same?
There would be no difference
Okay,
as far as if.
so
they-
for those
other
that
than
depend on property taxes, like the fire department, the schools, there would be no
No
difference.
different from a corporation buying it versus a homeowner, other than a homeowner can apply for exemptions and a corporation can.
Okay, so there could be potentially higher property tax from a corporate home.
Yes.
Okay,
But that's gonna be passed on to the renter,
Exactly.
so. Yeah.
well, and right now there's articles that it could, in some markets, cost more to rent a home than to buy it. I don't know so much anymore with 7% interest rates. But
Right.
Okay. Is that sufficient enough feedback?
So,
Yes. The board's comfortable with them moving forward, because next step for them is to commit to engineering and all of that stuff.
But the fourth visit, you're supposed to bring cookies.
Thank you for coming every time.
That's
for
in
hearing
the
us
code,
out.
isn't it? In the village code? All right.
Appreciate your time.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Hedges.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With that, I'd like to, after you guys are done saying goodbye, please.
Oh, sorry, to our guests that wanted to comment. When this goes before the planning and zoning commission, there's gonna have to be a public hearing, and there's gonna have to be, I think, a public hearing when it comes here to the board, right? I think you can comment at that point.
Right, I was just gonna make a little suggestion, I mean, it seems something.
We can talk offline, we can talk after the meeting, but
Sure.
but if you want to speak specifically about that subject, you definitely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, with that,
But we'll talk after the meeting.
You learned a lot coming here, don't you?
It's a busy day.
Mr. Hedges. Mr. Hedges.
with that, Mr. Mayor, I would like to explain that the next two items are somewhat bracketed, item D and E under village manager's report. And that's because we have a lady online, Tatiana Rugoni. Tatiana, are you with us?
Yes, hi, guys.
Okay, thank you. So Tatiana, I met with about a month ago, and she is interested in opening up a gaming cafe. I spoke to Mayor Reed about that. And she has a property in Hampshire under contract for purchase. And she would like to open up a gaming cafe. We don't have any gaming cafes in town right now, and we don't have a description of a gaming cafe in any of our current zoning classifications. So right now, her operation could be classified as a bar, and so she could receive a bar liquor permit. She won't be serving enough food to be considered a restaurant. So some communities do actually have an agenda supplement in your packet describing this in more detail. But some communities do allow these as bars and license them as bars. And some communities create a separate description of a gaming cafe in addition to a bar. Right now, we have bars, restaurants, and essentially any place that sells liquor can have gaming. So what we've offered here is a discussion for you to discuss for us and let us know if you would like to have a special regulation for gaming cafes, in which case staff will go back and draft it. If you would like to control the number of gaming cafes, we could do that without using the liquor license to control it. Or if you don't want any gaming cafes, we could prohibit it. You have all those options before you, and we're not asking for a decision tonight. We're just asking if you're inclined to leave it the way it is and have the gaming cafes as considered a bar, in which case no action would be required on item D. And then we would ask you to consider increasing the number of liquor licenses for Mrs. Rigoni's project. So with that.
And also, if the board decides that we want to classify it separately, we will not be creating a license under the current regulations. So either we do nothing and leave it as it is and then offer to increase the number of licenses, or we do something and motion or letter E gets tabled.
Right. So you either table D and approve E, or you table E and approve D. Or we'll go back and get
Does the liquor commissioner have to do anything?
So if we decide that we want to create a different code within liquor licenses, then the liquor commission would be correct. And then we would make changes to the liquor code as it exists today. If we do nothing and classify it as a bar, we would, the board, before the liquor commission could vote on a license, the license has to be available. Right now, the license is not available. So the village board would need to create the license. The liquor commission can meet to decide whether or not we wanted to issue it to any establishment. But we don't have extra licenses just hanging around. We've never done it that way. We also, at that same end, the liquor commission has never set a limit on how many licenses that we issue. So I guess the larger discussion becomes is what's everybody's feeling about gaming cafes? I guess we should probably talk about the site in which they want to, they have a contract on.
Sure.
Which would be the corner building of the hardware store.
Based in
Washington and State, right on the corner. That's the building that that this individual has a contract on and would like to open up a gaming cafe. In order to get the licensing for the slot machines and all the stuff that would go with it, they have to have a liquor license, and that has to be issued by the village.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add, Mrs. Rigoni actually works for one of the gaming companies, so she's quite an expert on that. And I think if you're interested in the gaming cafe concept, it would be reasonable for her to explain a little bit about the operation and what she plans to do with hers, who her clientele would be, etc., if you're interested.
Well, I just want to say, just so the board doesn't feel like this was sprung on them, previous mayors, both of them were against gaming cafes. And there have been businesses that have approached the village over the years, and they never made it to the board. And I felt that this was a discussion that we needed to have at a board level, to decide if this is something that we wanted to either, one, allow or prohibit within our village. And two, we make such emphasis on our code all the time and we want to do things the right way. So if we did allow this, did we want to just let it be as a bar, or did we want to create a specific classification within the liquor code for it? And the only way for us to have this conversation is to have it at the board level, which is why it's on the agenda. The ordinance, that was the ordinance to create a liquor license was also my decision, because if the board decided to just leave it as it was and wanted to issue it, I didn't want to hold up the business end of it either. So I wanted to explain that. Ms. Rigoni, can you kind of explain what your thought process is as far as what you envision the property to be, your clientele and that kind of stuff? Kind of explain it to the board, please.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yes. So the gaming cafe will be for individuals 21 and up. It will be alcohol. Obviously, I need the liquor license. I do not plan on having a full bar at this establishment, just because the main will be the gaming machines, not really the drinking. So I would focus more on just beer and wine. Probably only snacks, no food, and cameras will be installed. Only 6 terminals are allowed at the establishment at any facility. So yeah, it's very simple concept.
I just have a question on the variance, and thank you for the number on the terminals, because that was going to be one of my questions, if the cafe allows for more terminals or not, and it doesn't. So
no, 6 only.
What is the technical difference between a gaming cafe and a bar with 6 terminals inside of it?
I mean, there's not really a difference. It just depends on the municipalities or cities, how you qualify it. But mostly a lot of towns or the gaming cafes, they actually only serve beer and wine, just because they want to stay away from the hard liquor, because this is not the main purpose of the establishment. They don't want people to get too drunk or actually go there just to drink. The main purpose is for people to go and enjoy the slots and have possibly a cocktail or 2, but it's not the main purpose of a gaming cafe.
Understood.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Rigoni about what her plans would be with the facility? Now, it's also important to keep in mind that she needs a liquor license to even get the slot machines.
Correct.
local liquor license, to get a state liquor license, and then to get this,
Right.
But that the state gaming board won't even give her slot machines if she doesn't hold a liquor license. That's why this is.
This is correct.
So this is for the property on the corner of Washington and State?
Correct.
Yes.
Just the one,
That one side.
the farther northern of the, I guess of the three that it is, okay.
Yep.
Right across from the library?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the library's not gonna be there.
Which is also across the street from a wine bar that's opening up, and also across the street from the cave, and also across the.
Yeah,
street
the
from-
cave.
What times of day do you tend this to be open?
Every day, Monday through Sunday, probably around starting at 9 o'clock, 9 or 10. And then in the morning, yes.
Doesn't pick
Yes.
up people.
Well, we also will have coffee for people, yes, cappuccinos. But yes, early in the morning and then probably around 10, 11, depends on people, what they prefer. I mean, it's supposed to be for people also something to do. There's a lot of elderly people and there's really nothing to do and they really enjoy playing the slots, and it will be my place that they can go in and have a good time and just play the slots.
Have you done any type of research to find out if there is a need or desire for people to come to the Village of Hampshire specifically to game at one location?
Yes. Well, they're everywhere, right? People, I have establishments. I work for Excel Entertainment. It's the largest terminal operator in Illinois. So I have helped quite a few people tune their gaming industry. And I have quite a few people in Genoa, in Pringle Groves, and all the surroundings areas. And I do know the numbers, and I do know that people like to play. So I do believe that Hampshire, depending on your the people will be interested in having a gaming cafe, versus because bars and truck stops are just not a different, it's a different atmosphere. Some people are not comfortable into going to bars, or they don't want to go to a truck stop. But my gaming cafe is very safe place where there's no loud music, there's not a lot of drinking, and I believe there's a lot of people who would very be interested in this type of atmosphere.
What are we thinking, guys?
I'm good with it.
I mean, I'm good with the business. I'm still confused about what we would create a new thing for and why we wouldn't say it's a bar that chooses to only sell beer and wine.
That's a very simple thing to do.
Right.
And I think that's fine if you say, hey, we're just gonna serve beer and wine, we'll have coffee in the morning, we're open all day. I don't know that we need to, if it's still 6.
Again, I really felt that we needed to have this conversation at a board level rather than present something and say that this was happening without the board, because these tend to be a little bit, I don't want to say controversial, don't take offense, but people look on these differently. They look at and so.
That's not what he's asking.
That's not what I'm asking.
No, I know, but that's why I wanted to have the conversation here at the board level. I agree with you.
I guess my question, and maybe this is for Mr. Schuster, is there precedence for a municipality to be able to differentiate between gaming cafes and bars or liquor establishments that would also have 6?
Yes.
There is, okay. What would be some of the reasons why you'd want to differentiate between the two?
Well, to limit it to beer and wine would be one.
Okay.
The hours would be another. So no one under 21 should be in this establishment is another regulation you could add. So you could take your children into a bar and you know, if the law says that the gaming machines are to be segregated, that isn't honored very strictly. If there's not walls, there may be a rope or something, you know. But here in this entire establishment, since no one under 21 should be drinking or gaming, they really shouldn't be in the establishment at all. It's a little easier for the police. So those are a couple of reasons to make a new classification limited to gaming cafes or establishments.
So with that, are you saying if we did create that gaming cafe, then this new business would not have to segregate per se, those gaming machines, because there is a separate classification that says anyone in this establishment must be 21 and over.
I
So
believe
did-
so. I think your design, Tatiana, could be that you don't have to segregate the machines. The whole purpose of your business is to have the 6 terminals. So the segregation is really at the front door.
Okay.
Correct. Yes, the front door would be
But
the segregation.
those are some of the questions that I was trying to understand of like the operational side, that this creates a difference.
I mean, these cafes tend to be very small spaces in general. And that's the atmosphere that the applicant is talking about. You don't go to a big noisy bar, you go to a small space. There's clear visibility, more safety if that's one of your concerns. And I think it helps the policing side of it as well.
I think with the growth that we expect to be happening, whether it's within a year, 5, 10, we're getting a new 2,000 homes it would behoove us to not create this category. I mean, you see these things popping up everywhere. They're not going away, so why? We should create the category, in my opinion.
Oh, okay, so you're saying we should?
We should create it to have it on the books, because I foresee it coming in the future.
Okay.
So.
And part of it was me just understanding.
Right.
What does creating this provide the business owner to be able to do that they can't do in a bar? Now it's clear to me, but that was.
Right.
I agree with you. I think that I just needed to understand the difference between.
Agreed, and I think the future point out very well, so I am all in favor of creating this new category, because for the ease of future business down the road, if we already have that, come to Hampshire, we already have it here. Why not? I mean.
Well, not only that, but then if future boards or somebody, or, there's an outpouring of this and they wanted to put a limit on it, they'd be able to limit it, just like we are within our code. We don't currently at the current time, but just within our code, we could, liquor license, we set the number of licenses that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to come to the board for a vote. So if we have a classification separate, then they could just say, okay, well, we don't want any more gaming cafes. Not that they're bad. I'm just saying that we try to figure this out for the future. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add, if you're inclined to be supportive of this concept, what you could do is approve this one tonight, and then staff could go back and do some work on the zoning classification, on some zoning, and Josh would like to make some comments on why you might want to regulate the zoning.
Yeah, not to advocate for it, but if the board wanted to, the creation of, right now, gaming cafes is not in the zoning code. So that's why we would have to call it a bar, and then bars are prohibited in several different types of zoning, B1, B2, B3, B4. If you wanted to define a gaming cafe, you would have a liquor license for it, of course, but then it would be in the zoning code, and the board from time to time could decide whether that was going to be allowed in the downtown business district versus, the B3 district. You could also attach a special use process to it, where every time a gaming cafe comes to town, it has to go through planning and zoning and then the village board. So again, not advocating for any of those things, but those are just other things you might consider how you regulate.
so say we approve this tonight, and then we establish a process in which somebody would have to get a special use, which she'd be grandfathered in because we've already issued it.
Okay.
Is that, so she wouldn't have to go through all the oops, just anybody else would.
On point 3, page 162 of your packet this evening. Point 3, under the analysis, it says amend the zoning code to disallow gaming cafes unless ancillary to another permitted use. So are we saying that? I'm confused on what that is. What that means.
So this is one of the 3 options in the event that the board collectively was against the idea of gaming cafes.
Okay, so
you can amend the code to clarify that we don't allow gaming cafes, but you can still have gaming in your bars and at your truck stops.
Understood. Okay. Thank you for that. I was looking at as these were the 3 things, and I'm like,
We're trying to anticipate your questions, but we hadn't even introduced the concept to you yet.
What are we feeling?
I'm all for it.
I'm all for it.
I don't really want to limit it to just downtown, because you can only develop downtown so much. What happens when you get the strip mall on 72 or whatever future development we get? If it's just limited to downtown, then
I was suggesting you might limit it to everywhere but downtown.
if that was your choice.
Well, that would.
Which we don't do for anything.
Correct.
else. We don't do
But
that.
you could if you want.
Right.
I wouldn't limit it
I don't
to anywhere
wanna
but
limit-
downtown.
I don't want to.
One downtown's just gonna bring more people downtown to a restaurant.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would keep it open.
You've been quiet. Are you interested or not interested?
I'm not a fan.
Not a fan?
I'm 100% with trustee Fodor. I don't, personally, I moved to Hampshire for the nice, small farm town feel, and I don't want a gaming cafe downtown. We have gaming in the different areas, but people are going to a restaurant to eat, they're going to a bar to drink and socialize and be with friends, and the machines are there. I was not a supporter of the machines to begin with in 2007, whatever them they came. So I understand they're there. I understand it brings in, money for the town as well. But I've already got gaming machines up and down. I go out for pancakes and there's gaming machines, in there. I go across to a lunch and there's gaming machines in there. They're there. I understand it. But then to add a standalone, it's not like there's no option for anyone else to go. And it's not super loud in a restaurant. If somebody wanted a game, they could go into that area. I also am old fashioned. I don't want to bring in, an element of people that have every day going in there to gamble. I just think that's a problem, and I'm no disrespect. I know that's what you do. But I think it's a vice and I know it's a vice that's here, but when they were first introduced in the 2006, 7, whatever that was, to me, it was bringing Las Vegas here to Illinois and I didn't like it. And now to bring it into my downtown, I don't like it. For number one, considering them as bars, I would absolutely be a no to that because it's not a bar, it's not the primary use of it. So that would be an absolute no. I would lean towards disallowing gaming cafes unless it's ancillary to another business, which is what we already have right now, and it keeps the focus on, food or, other things. I don't, the less tasteful would be the number 2, which would allow it under certain regulations, minimum distances from, schools. From libraries, there's all kinds of stuff. I want that downtown to be a family-friendly type area, and you can't bring your kids into there. And as she said, she'll serve coffee in the morning. So someone comes in and says, well, I'm not drinking. I'm just having coffee, and they've got their child with them.
But you can't, they can't
Can't
have.
have a child in there.
I know they can't, when they turn around and say, I'm just drinking coffee. There's no one
That
else
doesn't
in
make,
there
no, they're not,
drinking.
that's
law, they're not.
The kid can't go in by law.
So then you've got people, and I've seen them when the boats came in, where they would be sitting outside it was when you actually had a boat type thing, and you've got families sitting out there waiting for somebody to come out because they needed to win in order to make rent money. And that was so horrible for me to see that I don't want that in Hampshire. So I would be an aye.
Trustee Matt?
I'm okay with it. Taking, I'm not a gamer anyway, so you wouldn't see me in there.
There's 6 machines, you're not gonna have 300 people lined up out front,
Yeah,
waiting to play the machine.
I'm okay with it. I'm thinking of the future and how much we're gonna expand here, whether we want a station wall or not, it's gonna expand. And I don't see that being a big concern for me. I'm trying to look at the future here.
How many,
Trustee,
I just want to jump onto that, though. How many gaming facilities do we have or facilities that have gaming allowed?
Oh, what's the number now? I knew somebody was gonna ask that question and I was trying to think. It's
5,
Every
10?
restaurant, every bar, and every gas station.
Oh, yeah. Hold on, you got them in the back?
You can game with the mobile?
20 some maybe.
Really?
Yeah, the one, no, not, but that's a vending liquor license.
No.
I think he might be the only.
Yeah, but not the park district does. Oh, 20.
But the truck stops have, they can have more without having liquor, so there's a couple out there, and then there's the 20, so it's about 20, I would say.
we had that before a few months ago when we increased the license per machine, but I don't recall it.
Okay.
Trustee Kelly, what's your thought?
So I'm okay with classifying a zone, or is it a zone or a
No,
code?
well, it's a liquor license.
No, I'm
The
talking about,
classification.
we talked about the classification for zoning where I think,
Yeah,
Mr. Ray,
there's-
you were talking
We can
about.
make this an allowable use or a special use in an existing zoning category.
I'm okay with it if we're putting some like, if the board's able to govern it in the way that matches what other municipalities have done for these type of areas. I mean, this would be our first time going into it, and we tend to do that a lot with our ordinances, to see what other people have and then adopt and change based on what's best for our community. But I'm not sure I'm okay with, and I don't want to slow down a new business owner opening either, is I'm not okay with us saying that we would want to go into an ordinance that defines a specific type of use or special use definition. And knowingly that we're going to do that, approve somebody that would be grandfathered without having to follow those rules. I would almost say absolutely welcome that type of business once we define whatever that use is, and then just as long as they meet the use, then great. Welcome to town, and we wish you all the best with your business. But I just, for anything we do, not just gaming cafes, just anything in general, if we're gonna talk about making it an ordinance for something that will govern it, to then in that same evening, pass something to grandfather somebody not to have to follow that just seems bad.
So
This board
theoretically,
has made it pretty clear that variances are considered an obstacle anyway. So it's either permitted or it's not. It seems to me.
so theoretically, let's say staff does their homework and they present something next week or 2 weeks. We could then vote to create, after we pass it, we could then create a liquor license, and that, assuming we pass it, we could vote to create a liquor license at that time in 2 weeks. Then the liquor commission could meet theoretically the day after, right, and then issue the liquor license, correct? Could it happen that
Yes,
fast?
I'm not sure what I'm hearing is that most people are either for or against this as a.
Well, I think
classifying as a bar. I haven't heard anybody suggest.
I don't think anybody's in favor of classifying it as a bars.
Actually, I heard Trustee Kelly say those exact words earlier.
No, I was confused on the difference, and when Mr. Schuster explained why classifying something as a gaming cafe gave different rights, I understood that, and I said, okay, that makes sense to look at.
And you prefer that?
Yeah, I would prefer that, because then it allows the proprietor of a gaming cafe to have more leeway in the way they're doing this, rather than the segregation of the machines, and it ensures for our public safety officers, they know everybody in there should be 21. I mean, it sets some of those parameters that Mr. Schuster said, so I would be for that. That's what I was saying. If we went down that road in this case, that makes sense to me. I didn't understand the difference between a bar and what that was.
So I think
I'm just saying, if we're going to create that, I don't know that we approve somebody before that's created. That's what I was just talking about.
So I think what we would have to do is, I think staff's gonna have to present in 2 weeks, the classification, how we could classify it. We're gonna have to create that classification. And then you could also potentially have on the agenda the creation of a license for that classification, assuming that the first thing passes. And then the liquor commission would have to meet after that. So we would stall this for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's the right way to handle it.
I do too. I mean, this is our classification, yeah, so.
Right. We're not saying, to be clear, we're not saying no.
Okay.
We're saying that we have to follow we have to create a classification within our liquor license code, which is not, we don't have for a gaming cafe. We need to do that step first, which we can't do tonight. Staff needs to get things together, needs to present it to the board in 2 weeks. The board needs to decide whether or not we want to create that classification. If the board decides that we want to create that classification, we would then be able to create the license. The liquor commission could meet and we could issue the license. So it would be, we're asking, does 2 weeks sound fair?
Mr. Mayor, the direction what I would like to have would be to understand if there are, I've heard 2 people say they're opposed to that entirely. Are there others that are opposed, so we don't go whack and draft an ordinance that's not?
No, I'm in favor.
I'm fine with it.
Then that's what we'll do, Mr. Mayor.
I would like to clarify though, because you're talking about a classification in the liquor code.
And zoning and all of that.
And
stuff.
Okay, so there is the
That-
zone.
that-
Can't
that
do
was all
zoning
along.
in 2 weeks.
Say again?
You cannot do a zoning change in 2 weeks. You have to take it through your planning and zoning commission.
So we need a month.
We can bring a concept back to them in 2 weeks. You know, this will take until January or February to go through the process.
Well, I apologize if that stalls up the works, but that's,
It's your prerogative.
okay. Well, the staff will, our staff will stay in contact with you through this process, so you know what you're looking at.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, so we need to, we had the discussion, but I will entertain, a motion to table, ordinance, item E on the agenda.
So
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Fodor. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Palestrini.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
All right.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we would now ask your consideration of an ordinance waiving the requirement for installation of a storm shelter in the fire station to be constructed by Hampshire Fire Protection District on a lot located in the Thames Farm subdivision. You have before you, excuse me, John, you have before you an agenda supplement drafted by Mr. Ray, which lays this out, and with this is Chief Herman, who I'm sure would like to make a couple comments.
So good evening, everybody. As you know, we've been working on this project for about 18 months. Our architect came back with an original cost of about $4 million. So we went for the bond referendum, which we received. $4 million for the station, $500,000 for the contents. Obviously, a lot of things have happened during that time with inflation. So we went to the new building code here just in the last couple of months, which requires a storm shelter to be built in there, which I just got the cost back for that, which is about $250,000 just to reinforce a very small section of the building. Obviously, with everything that's going on, I am very concerned that we're going to be well over that $4 million. So I am asking for a variance to exempt that storm shelter. That's where we're at.
It's also important to know that, the, new elementary school, Big Timber Elementary, has a big storm shelter in their gym, that's self-sustaining.
I think that's required by law in schools.
No, that's what I'm saying. I just want to point out that it's there. So if there's a concern from this board that there's not one in the community, there is. It's not.
I don't think Chief Herman actually said it out loud, and I didn't either, but the 2006 code that we had when they went to referendum did not require this. This is a new requirement in the 2018.
Obviously, when we started this process, like Mr. Hampshire said, we were actually in the 2006 code. So we did all our homework, came up with $4 million. And that's where we're at. And I know, just based on what I know right now from listening to our construction management team and our architect, we're going to be over 4 million. So if you add this to it, we have, I'm telling you, with the bond referendum, we have $4 million to build it, $500,000 for contents. So we would have to go back to the board and, not your board, our board, and readjust all that. Again, I'm asking for the variance for that.
It's not my building. I mean, I'm okay with it. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but it's not my building.
Take a vote.
Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Yeah, I just did it. I mean, it's being built in an area with a bunch of new homes. And those new homes, predominantly, I'm gonna assume, have basements where people can go there instead of the firehouse. I mean, when somebody doesn't feel safe or there's wind or something that's out there, they're gonna go to a school, firehouse. And so.
The storm shelter has to withstand wind of 250 or more.
Okay.
But correct me if I'm
That'll blow
wrong, it's not
anything
for a
we have now.
community storm
It's
shelter.
not
It's for your
it's for our
firefighters.
because it's a living space.
Okay, so it's
It's
just,
not for the public.
okay, is there a basement that's going in there
It's
as
not.
well? So it's just.
It's a slab.
Okay,
So it's just for them.
okay, I see that it's not.
You don't have a storm shelter or basement in the current firehouse?
No.
Okay. All right, just. I'm comfortable moving forward with this. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, vote how you're gonna vote, but I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 22-31, and ordinance waiving the requirements for installation of a storm shelter.
So moved.
I'm checking it.
Questions, comments, concerns?
So where do your firefighters go if there is a drain?
We'll still go on an inner portion of the building, just like we would in your home or the school before they had storm shelters, just like that. And I'll be honest with you, our policy is that we have tornado warnings, we actually leave the fire station and go to designated areas in the district, because after it goes through, we have to go to work. So we
I was
always
gonna
have,
say, are you even in?
we actually leave the building. So it's public, but I'm never gonna sit here and say at 2 o'clock in the morning when we're sleeping and we miss a warning.
Yeah.
That could happen either. So we have to be honest about it.
And first and second, if somebody has a question, figure? No? Okay, Ms. Clerk, can you go roll, please?
Ms. Paulson?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson? Ms. Fodor?
No.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Coe?
Aye.
Mr. Matt?
Aye.
5 ayes, 1 nay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With that, we would ask for your consideration of a motion to approve payment number 4 in the amount of $181,315.37 to Alliance Contractors, Inc. for work completed on the streetscape project, bringing payments to $904,093.21 of the total project contract award of $1,024,450. So there's still probably one additional payment before we get to the 10% retainage that we will keep for a year.
Does that total project include the change order?
No, the total project does not include the change order. Very small change.
That'll be a different
Yeah.
motion. Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
What's still left to do on there?
Actually, at this point, we're down to a controller on the lights, which is not even noticeable. That lights are operating without it. That's it. We're done.
Okay, because I marked off like on I guess it's page 168, all the different items that just had 0 or didn't have anything there yet, and it just didn't see anything of
Yeah.
substance to me. Beyond the-
Well, yeah,
So,
I keep forgetting about the light poles. It's poles at 72 there. I mean, our beautiful light poles are.
yeah, okay.
If they get to look at it, my little camera out the window, it looks like I texted the mayor on Saturday night. It looked like Santa's landing strip on Saturday night. Little snow and bright lights.
You gotta come up with better hobbies than looking at a camera and texting the mayor on Saturday.
Sometimes. When I line this morning, saw somebody coming out of the Gardenberry Cafe, so I know they're working over there.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve payment number 4. So,
Second,
questions, comments? Mr. Clerk, can you call the roll, please? Sure.
Mr. Coe?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Fodor?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson?
Aye.
Ms. Paulson?
aye.
Mr. Matt?
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
This is like my favorite thing ever, I'm just saying.
What's that?
The channel grinder.
Oh, well, before we even get to that, I was gonna admit to Miss Polstrini that I also have a Ring camera at home that I've been known to look at. To see the wild animals in the backyard. Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is your favorite thing. Would you like to introduce this? Actually, I think Trustee
Kelly.
you both have a lot of experience in this area. This is something that Utility Superintendent Montgomery has wanted for a long time, and now we find it to be really a requirement. So first, let me read the motion, if you would, please, Mr. Mayor. We would ask your consideration of a motion to waive the bidding requirements and authorize the purchase of a channel grinder from Mark Kresmary Construction LLC in the amount of $115,535. The budget planned we had this item in the FY24 capital improvement budget. Now, it had originally been in 23 and Mark postponed it because it was not available. There was about a 26-week lead time the last time we looked into this in preparation about a year ago. One of the reasons this is such a priority right now is that one is available, and it's available on a very short lead time, and the price has gone down significantly from the $165,000 that we budgeted a year ago. Now it's $115,000. You'll also see in your agenda supplement that Mark offered 4 different items that he'll forego until next year, so we're swapping out exactly $115,000 for this $115,000 in other equipment that's necessary, but not as necessary as this. This will really bring us, for the first time, we will have a really good prep grinding before this hits our screen, filter, and then our primary.
So in case any of you guys are a little curious as to what this actually might be, during the pandemic, we had
Play that video.
Oh, man, yeah, Trustee Kelly produced this beautiful video that's on our YouTube channel explaining to people not to flush these wipes that everybody claims that are flushable and other objects down your toilets that may not be flushable. So, Mr. Montgomery said that this was a problem, and so Trustee Kelly and I drove up there unsuspectingly to take some video. And we went down into the bowels of this place where all the sewage for the entire village goes. And you got to see all the objects that were stuck right at this outfall. And he has to go in every day with a rake and rake it back and pull it out into a bucket because it can't go downstream. The stream catches it, but he can't. So anyway, he has to do this every day. So he's been asking since 2020 for this channel cat grinder. It literally just grinds up all the stuff.
So I think we should move on and buy it. Rather than go
So
any more length.
there's a YouTube video that describes it with some really good video. It's on our village Facebook or
There's
village
also a great
YouTube.
video of that monster on the website if you.
I do think every trustee should go visit this location and experience it because it is part of the
Not
village.
just
And It's
look at
just
the
good
YouTube
to know what you're
I agree.
providing for the
I
citizens.
agree.
You know what it smells like.
Yeah,
I did that.
you do need to
Holistic
take,
experience.
We took you guys. to
you do
I've
need to
worked
take my
at 26
7-year-old daughter
plants.
who insists they're flushable. If you're looking for a good art
Turn off
trend,
your nostrils.
you can come over and
Didn't have to about it.
they're flushable, Dad.
So I'll entertain a motion I'll entertain a motion to waive the bidding requirements and authorize the purchase of a channel grinder.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, you had a question, Tom?
On the bottom of page 178, sentence recommendations, not recommended, there's a spelling mistake in the board may waive. I think it should be
Yeah.
W-A-I-V.
Indeed.
Waive.
Not just-
W-A, we waive if we want. Depends what, hey, we're not using a string in English.
So we'll approve it. Just fix the spelling error.
Good catch, mate.
So I read it.
Mr. Mayor, point of clarification though,
Yes.
because on one page it says 115,353, on page 178, and on page 181, it's 115,535.
It's 115,535.
535, okay, then the first one.
We're getting Grammarly with everybody this year.
On my agenda, it's 115,535.
Oh, it's on,
On page 178 is one price. and then-
yes.
We'll take the higher amount and then we'll pay with the actual.
Take the higher amount, we'll pay the lower amount. Got it. All right. Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll on channel cat, please?
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Yeah, yeah.
Aye, 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 aye.
Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, with that, I would now like to introduce a very small item on the agenda. But the next two items are bracketed again, I and J. Ms. Lyons will be giving you a brief presentation on the annual tax levy. No action required on that. However, please note that a resolution will be following, setting the amount of the levy, and also there will be a public hearing scheduled. There will be plenty of time for discussion at the public hearing. With that, we would ask your Lori will make a presentation.
So this will be short and sweet this evening, but please direct your attention to the big screen.
We always love your presentations. You have the best graphics.
This is going to be short and sweet, but yes. So tonight we're here to be setting the tentative levy. I'm not sure what happened to my Hampshire graphic that was at the top. I must have clicked on delete
We'll
that.
blame Josh. It's okay.
We'll
Sorry
pretend it's
about
the TV's fault.
So we'll be setting the tentative levy this evening and also the date for the public hearing. So just to remind you, the village has to adopt an annual property tax levy. This 2022 levy will be collected in 23, and it will relate to the expenses that we are incurring in this fiscal year. Okay, so it looks like all of my Hampshire graphics that were supposed to fill the top of the page are gone. So basically, no, Josh didn't do it. This is all me.
No, we're still blaming Josh.
That's all right, we pretended so.
I can hold that eight up there if you don't.
Yeah, hold on to that H. So essentially this evening, we will be doing this, there's a requirement for a minimum of 20 days between the tentative levy presentation and its adoption. Anytime we exceed a request for 5% or more greater than last year's extension. And so, again, we will have to have a truth in taxation notice be published, both in a newspaper and on our website, and we will be conducting a public hearing. The age is gone again. So basically, in the two-factor calculation, the village can, the levy request must be the lesser of 5% or the CPI index from the prior year. So the CPI index for the calendar year 2021 was 7%. So this is the very first time in history of PTEL that we've actually, what I say, we've been PTEL. So we can't levy for 7% or get the CPI index, other than to include the calculation with new construction. We're limited to the max of 5% or the lesser of 5%. So in addition to that 5% in the calculation before, we can add our new construction. And at the issuance of the preliminary new construction values that are issued by the county clerk's office, we are expecting just over $5 million in new construction. So that includes new residents as well as industrial buildings. So I estimate based on that and the calculation that you have to perform in order to determine how much additional money we would get from that, I expect additional revenue of approximately $41,700. So this year, in order to capture the 5%, both from the existing property plus the new construction, this levy request is requesting 8.5%. So that's $1,294,500. I believe that, and we always bump that up so that we can capture all the new construction and don't leave anything on the table. If the numbers stay the same, we would actually only be able to collect $1,277,000 approximately. And that, once all of the final numbers are in place, the county clerk's office will do the official extension calculation and limit anything that we have, that you have levied in excess of what is available to actually collect. And then that page is completely blank. All of my graphics are gone. So essentially, I had the 6 pennies on.
$1 again?
No, that'll be in the next presentation, but this had 6 pennies because the village collects approximately 5.8 cents of every dollar in property taxes that you pay. So, you know, just keep that in your mind.
Could you also explain, because we're on tape, that this doesn't mean that we are raising taxes 8.5% like everybody's going to take out of it?
Absolutely correct. So everyone's going to be a little bit different. Some of your homes will be assessed for more this period. Some will be assessed for less. So we can't really say exactly how this is going to, you know, affect your individual tax bills. However, the 8.5%, you will not see that. I actually expect when the calculation is done, despite requesting the 5% or being able to capture the 5%, the village's tax rate will go down.
Which the village hasn't raised its tax rate in how many years now?
It's not gone up for several years. Yeah.
The village tax rate hasn't gone up. They used to say over 10, and I'm sure we're over 10 now. But
I could easily look that up. I don't have that.
No, because
Yeah, email that to them tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Coe.
So this is just the tentative levy, in 2 weeks. So this is 20 days in advance of when you actually will, conduct the public hearing on December 17th. Is that right? December 15th, sorry. And, pass the levy ordinance. So this is just a resolution to set the tentative levy.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Lyons before I entertain a motion to approve the resolution?
Just one quick, what did we, it's 8.5% this year. What did we request last year?
Last year, I believe it was 7%.
Okay. So that's.
Yeah, I'm 100% positive.
I know it was, I thought it was in the 7 range too. Thank you.
Entertain a motion, 22-13, a resolution determining the amount to be levied for in the 2022 tax year.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We now ask for a motion to bind coverage for workers' compensation insurance with the Illinois Public Risk Fund. Ms. Lyons can give you a brief summary. This was an enormous undertaking, frankly. We were requested to go out to a second broker, so we had 2 brokers in the market, which is rather unusual, to be honest. But it did require additional work for Lori, so it's been a lot of evaluation, a lot of analysis. So she'll tell you the results and ask for your support.
So I'm hoping that you have had the opportunity to read the agenda supplement. However, I want to draw your attention to 2 specific tables in that agenda supplement. The first is that at the top of page 189 in your packet. So essentially, I'll just, cut and dry here. Travelers insurance, which we have not bound with before, actually has the lowest quote. They require packaging workman's compensation with their package. So we can't do a standalone workers' compensation insurance with them. I threw in the Trident quote because I had that one already. And as you can see, there's a difference of, so that will be the quote that our current broker recommends we bundle, if you will, with the IPRF quote for workers' compensation. So the 223 would be comparable to the 204. However, there are some differences. The 204, if you looked in the detailed information, does contain a discount of like $10,000. The thing that's not shown on here is we have outstanding grant funds that if we bind with IPRF total over $7,000, which, kind of compensates for the 223. And I would also like to point out that the employment practices, which we are not even considering this evening, is capped on the traveler's side at $1 million without any umbrella coverage for that. Whereas on the Trident side, there is $7 million in umbrella. So we would be giving up additional coverage to the tune of $7 million should something really bad happen. And then the second thing I want to point out is the deductible table, which is just below the first table at the top of the page. There are 3 coverages in the package policy that would carry higher deductibles with travelers. And so I have those listed here. So based on the fact that we would be getting a little bit different coverage, and the workers' compensation is a bit different also. There's $3 million of per incident coverage with IPRF and only $2.5 million with travelers. It would be my recommendation to accept the workers' compensation quote from IPRF. Now, I'm not asking you to do the Trident quote because we still have a quote coming from ICRMT, which is another pool that is specifically for municipalities and counties, those types of organizations. So public bodies that will be coming at our next meeting to evaluate that against Trident. Because those are for the package policies.
Which includes
Package, boiler, boiler and machinery, our umbrella coverage, and cyber liability. So the only piece that's gonna hold over one more year is crime, because we're in our third year of a 3-year policy. So once again, my recommendation would be to bind once again with IPRF. Now, just to explain that premium a little bit. So I have to provide payroll estimates for next year. So that led to about a 2% increase in the premium compared to this year. And then our experience factor and basically our experience factor led to the additional amount, about 16% that gets you from the 82,000 that we're paying this current year to 104 that we're going to pay next year.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Lyons?
So what exactly are we approving tonight then? What you're looking for, the 104,050?
Correct.
And that's just the workers' compensation coverage?
That's accurate.
And we still have an existing policy that we're still in?
Yes, it runs through 12/31. The timing of, so this is a pool, IPRF is a pool, Illinois Public Risk Fund. It's a pool and they require withdrawal or potential withdrawal notice. So we had to send a letter to them saying that we were going to market. And so that, gives us a window to evaluate all of this. And then unfortunately, so the policy goes through 12/31, but if you don't bind the coverage by December 1st, they will drop it. So if you approve the IPRF, to bind that coverage, I will go back to them tomorrow and do a letter of I'm going to rescind the marketing part and we will bind with them. So it's kind of weird timing and it puts you kind of in a bad spot, so.
Then what does it matter for us getting the ICRMT one?
Because if their package policies are significantly lower than Trident's, we can mix and match at that point. So we can still we'll still have the IPRF, but we could bind with a different company for the package policies.
Okay, thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to bind coverage for workers' compensation in public risk fund.
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Gold.
Aye.
Mr. Meyer.
Aye.
Ms. Paulson.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Motion passes 0.
Chief Ban.
I have a bit of a cold, so yeah, if you hear me coughing and sniffling and sneezing and, my voice is a little bit better today than it was yesterday, so I will direct your attention to do you have the group A offenses first in your packet? So this is actually the numbers that we're reporting as a village to the FBI, through the state of Illinois. And it's done on a monthly basis. We were a little bit behind. So at the time that I printed the report, we were up until the end of September, and I just wanted to show you the numbers because these are the offenses that are reported. When communities are compared against one another, these are the offenses that those reporting groups look at. Particularly aggravated assault and simple assault would be one a number that they would use to rate the overall sense of safety in the community. And as you can see, if you look at I would direct your attention to that third column that says % change, and that gets hung up so much on the numbers themselves. But if you go down that column, you'll see that we're down 23% in simple assaults. We're down 100% intimidation. And then if you get down into the property offenses, we've got significant reductions in everything except for the fraud reports. And then on the crimes against society, we're also down, but you can see the numbers are very, very low overall. So I would like to bring this report to you every month, so you can have an ongoing just snapshot of these types of offenses, because these are the things that drive fear in a community. And from looking at this, I can say I don't think that there's going to be a lot of fear of these offenses in this community, but we do need to pay close attention to them, especially I know that we do see surges in property crimes, and this time of the year going into the holidays is a time where we would tend to see those in any community, a surge in property crimes, or even a surge in crimes against persons related to taking property and such. So I wanted to present that report to you first. The second is just this overall incidents by year that I'll continue to provide, and I can give you some specific numbers, but if you look at our incidents for this year, this would be our overall calls for service. So this is everything that our officers are responding to. We're at a level, the top, the historical bars there, the top 5 bars are all, they're all a completed year. And then, but the bottom bar is actually the current year to date. So it is growing, and it's not exactly apples to apples, but you can see we're on track. We're probably going to end right around where we were back in, it would have been
pre-pandemic.
Yeah, pre-pandemic. That gray bar is the pandemic year. And that would be driven by, calls, people being out and about and not being out and about that year, but also officer initiated activity was significantly down that year. Just because of everything going on. The next report is the incident primary offense totals. That's the one that you're used to seeing. So you can just take a look over that for the numbers, and then for the numbers for October. And then I wanted to make a point, trustee, is it Fodor? Every time I look at it, I'm like, how do you say it? I'm sorry. So, you had pointed out about the speeding, one speeding ticket. And I knew when you said it wasn't right. I just didn't know why at that point. So I just dug into it just a little bit, and that would be on this report, this incident offense totals, that would be a speeding ticket that was reported as a result of something else that was more significant. So think of a DUI arrest.
Yeah.
There's a police report that goes with a DUI arrest, and if they stopped them for speeding and they were DUI, then it would show up on this report. We don't usually write reports for speeding tickets, and so if you look at the next one, citations by total, in October, we wrote 84 speeding violations in the community, which is significantly more, obviously.
All people from out of town.
Well,
Mostly in school zones, I bet.
I think many school zones.
Big ticker the last time.
So what I intend to do moving forward, and forgive me for this taking a little bit of time as I'm getting settled in and just learning how to do everything and draw the numbers out and all that. What I'd like to do is present these first 2 reports every month, the group A and this, and then I would like to take some, I'll continue to give you the primary offense totals for you to look at, but then I want to put together some matrix for the department performance. How many calls for service do we have that are self-initiated? And how many are driven by the community demand? That's a good indicator. How many citations are we writing? We can take a look at that. Or we could just go to traffic stops. You don't want to have quota driven numbers in your citations. Really what's important is how often are we out there, how often are we making contact with the community and stopping.
Would it be hard to track AM or PM? Probably noon.
I'm not sure. I have to see if I can break it down that way.
No, for you guys, be interesting to see on your end if you're getting more calls or more speeders or more whatever at night versus day.
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah. That I could certainly do. And then just an overall, like 2 days ago, the officers did a presentation at the for the seniors, and where they did they talked about ruse burglaries, and they talked about actually, and it shows up on here where we've had some more reports of fraud incidents. So they were talking about scams and how to avoid those scams with the seniors. So I'd like to, I plan on reporting on those types of events every month too, just what we're doing, what we're involved in the community, so.
Including the bingo calling.
Yes. I'm gonna be calling bingo as a guest. And Jay, I'll have to admit, that's the meeting that I canceled last week that I'm sticking to. Yes. Because they were upset that I wasn't there last week, so, or this week actually, because I was, yeah, my cold was much worse on Tuesday, so.
Yeah, don't cancel on the seniors, don't remember that.
I
Cancel on the fire chief and me, but for the seniors.
Oh, you guys will get over it.
My wife did. Thank you.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Absolutely.
When people are reporting, things on the app that the officers actually have to go out and, or maybe look at or issue a citation based on the information that you have, does that show up on any of these reports? So how?
I can specifically track that with the app.
I'm just
Yeah, we
curious
can
if it
easily-
would be in one of these.
It wouldn't show up on those reports that we use the app for it, but the incident would show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes.
It would show up as one of these, even if it's
I
not.
mean, if you want to get a temperature, you know, how much, or a good idea of how much the community is using the app to report stuff to us that we, you know, that we're then taking action on, I can easily run that number. It's.
But and you can provide that too, right? Like just how many accounts are open.
Next time around, maybe at the next, probably in January, because
But
the
just,
next
you
time
know,
we have a room on an agenda,
Yeah.
we'll do just a brief presentation on the app.
that wasn't actually what I wanted, but I just wanted to know if it would show up on here. That's all.
Well, because even if they get called out because of the app, they still have to create a report and if they're issue a citation and stuff, so then.
That's all, I just wanted to make sure it's on there. That's all.
Questions, comments for Chief Band?
I just have one question, it's just a general question. Have you seen a lot of people driving with their lights on high beam? Which is, you know, can be really devastating to other drivers. Is there something that you look at in respect to that, or?
Well, it's against the law.
I know it's against the law, but,
Right.
there's nothing on here that says anything like that, was anybody was pulled over or anything else?
I mean, it would show up on the citations total
Oh, okay,
here.
that's what I wanted to know. But,
Yeah, if they wrote the citation, it would show up on here. So I don't
We
know.
should drive around in your little Mercedes convertible. I drive a pretty big pickup.
He doesn't want to categorize high beam tickets.
No, just a question, because I've noticed a lot of people that just,
That's
very
something-
aggravating that do
Sorry to
not
catch.
put their lights down.
Well,
It is-
or they're LEDs, Lionel. They're not the old fashioned yellow ones, they're LEDs.
And mine are, people are always flashing bright. They're always like my headlights
Oh,
are up
I
at like,
realize different illumination, but
yeah.
yeah, I seem quite good.
We
That was
can,
just a question.
okay,
So you know how to get under your skin.
and I can mention it to the officer too, to pay attention to that, you know, and they seem to be pretty good at responding when that happens.
If it's a blue Equinox, just know.
Can I ask one thing too, just because I've seen it about 2 or 3 times, because we just had the parking go into effect, no overnight parking. And I've seen people actually parking on their lawns. I've seen 3 people.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just curious if your officers have seen that, because, I mean, obviously, it's at night.
They haven't reported back to me, but that's not, you know, that is something that they have been enforcing over the past few months.
But they're looking on the streets, they're not looking to see if your car's in your grass
But they have,
at night.
yeah, because we've actually had some complaints generated there.
We've had a few complaints about them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I've seen them in a couple of different places, but they don't move them in the morning. So, I mean, it's not like I'm out there at 2 a.m. seeing it, but in the morning you see them, they're parked on their lawn.
Take a picture on the app, send it to me. Send it to the chief. It'll go right to the chief.
Yeah,
Well, actually, no one else right now, because I need to get on that.
okay,
We've had 2 parking violations go through the app.
okay. Okay.
And 3 streetlights, 2 people reported the same streetlight.
How many downloads are we at?
Pardon me?
How many downloads are we at, do you know?
About 585.
No, but that was 7,600, I guess that's great.
He didn't say he was
We got 500 the first week.
585,000.
The PR committee's working hard on a plan to increase that.
I hope so.
Engineering report. Mr. Paulson has been online this whole time. Hopefully he didn't fall asleep on us. Please review the engineering report.
Dessert and some wine.
Only a few times.
Review the engineering reports this time. If there's any questions for Mr. Paulson, I'm sure he's very happy to answer them.
What's EEI's role at the 72 job?
They have been acting as construction Supervisor, special manager, is that a proper term?
Only for village utilities, only
Right.
for, the water and sanitary.
Eastbound, south lane eastbound, beginning where the old pavement meets the new,
Yes.
there's a manhole sticking like that. The first snowfall, that plow's gonna rip that right out of the
Are
ground.
you talking about in front of, the Berkeley Shopping Center? Eastbound on
At-
72,
Yeah,
but west of the intersection.
way west of the intersection, at the start of construction,
That,
where the old pavement meets the new pavement.
that-
Okay,
is
yeah,
that what you mean?
yeah.
I'll take a look.
The manhole is mostly in the new pavement, but it's set at such a high angle, the plow tear it right off.
I noticed that. I'll take a look at it.
you want. You're the boss.
You talking going into the gas station?
No, further down where the old pavement and the new pavement meet.
Oh, okay.
Kind of where that entrance, the new entrance exit out of the mall is.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because the gas station went a little much too, although they won't go in there.
It says IDOT wrapping up construction. Have you gotten word from them on when the back order poles and the lights and everything? will be-
Sorry, I can address that. Yes, they told us just this morning, Chris Koustis said January or February.
Okay.
And will
Everything else will be complete next week. Actually, everything's finished right now, except for the wing walls that I mentioned in the email to all of you last week, or on Sunday, I think it was. Because that was all because AT&T didn't know whether.
Is the intersection weight censored? Or is it, meaning like if a car pulls up, it reads that there's a car there?
No, I honestly don't know.
So,
I think most of them are censored on the ground as opposed to any kind of.
Well, and that's what I was wondering, because I've been there at times still after the construction, and I've seen the north-south state, and then it turns into what? Getzelman, get skipped.
Yep, I ran into Mr. Hedges on Monday morning of all things. It's a great way for him to start his week running into the mayor.
About 8 o'clock.
And so we saw the construction manager and they said that the light there is not very well set up, as we've all figured out. And it's one cycle at a time. And typically, he said that they normally set them up so that it's 2 cycles, so that, both lights activate or whatever go. And the way that it works is it goes around, and if you're not pulled up close enough and it doesn't sense you or whatever, and it skips you, it starts all over.
Well, but now that construction is done, I didn't know if they would move to just a timed intersection.
No, there's a big white bar, and in that big white painted bar is a wire that picks up the weight of your car. And if you don't pull up on that, it'll work its cycle and eventually it'll catch you. But if you don't pull up on that, you can miss 2 or 3 lights.
Isn't that mostly on the turn lanes though, as opposed to?
No.
They should never skip a cycle on straight forward, I don't think, so I'll check.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up, because I know I personally experienced it, I know others have.
Yeah.
I'll put a quarter on the fact that they're gonna tell us that they're gonna fix it or that they've adjusted it, and it's not gonna do any good, because that's the way it's been for a long time. It's not
I'll
any
be
of your
happy to
fault.
donate a quarter.
Double down.
It's not your doing, but it's IDOT.
I will find out what the programming is, so we at least.
I just was curious if now that the construction is over.
Okay, next we have Ms. Lyons again with her financial report. That looks fantastic.
It looks great, doesn't it? I'm happy to, answer any questions. Essentially, I have outlined, our important accounts, both on the revenue side and then anything that's like way out of whack, if you will. On the expense side in our 3 operating funds, water, sewer, and, the general fund. We are 50% through the fiscal year, so, and moving on.
Page 240,
240, yes, sir.
street health insurance.
Mhm.
What is that?
That is actually employee health insurance,
Oh,
and,
Okay.
as it.
I didn't know if you're doing something weirdo with the roads or what.
Sorry, it's street personnel health insurance.
Well, I had to ask.
There was more employee utilization than was expected, so that's why that was out of whack.
Just like, what was it? Jake the stripper?
For shared revenues, sales tax, income tax,
Mhm.
use tax, gaming tax, video gaming fees, whatever we want to call that.
Yes,
At 50% through the year, is it safe for us to have a presumptive forward-looking view of this and say that we're currently trending to come in over budget for revenues on all of those areas?
I would say that I would agree with that statement.
Okay.
We qualified by saying a lot could happen in the
That's what I said,
second quarter.
trending that we could.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
In particular, sales taxes are kind of surprising me, but there was switching the use tax, but yeah, our sales tax is our highest revenue source now, even more than property tax.
Thank you again for these detailed reports.
Yes.
Paints a really good picture and it helps us make better decisions when we know what we're looking at, so I appreciate that.
All right. Next is the big amount for accounts payable for employees in the amount of $384.99. Does anybody have any questions about the accounts payable for employees? Nope. I will entertain a motion to approve the accounts payable to employees in the amount of $384.99.
So,
Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Paulson.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Next, we have the big one. Any questions about the big one? I'm going to pick on trustee Coe.
I'm all good.
Trustee Collins.
I just wanted to know if the streets had insurance.
Trustee Kelly.
They're in good health.
I would say Dave has our health insurance.
No.
Nobody? Mr. Mott?
Yep, I'm good.
Rounds.
Somebody has something.
Nobody?
Wow, I know.
Holy cow, all right, hurry up, all right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the accounts payable. Question, comments? No, wait, that's only on it.
There's one.
You need a second.
Wait a second, I gotta do it before it's put.
I know.
No second.
Second.
What?
Come on, nobody wants to pay the bills this month?
Second.
Oh,
and I have a question then.
okay,
Now we're-
I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for it.
Call for the question.
Can't make the motion.
Okay.
The reimbursement for the kid for the facade program, that project's now complete.
Yes, I think so.
The facade portion of their project, I'm not sure if they're doing anything else, but the
But
facade,
I know there was still some roof and gutter work and stuff, that all got done.
everything included in the facade grant is complete.
Okay.
Okay, that was easy. All right, so for a second. There's looking call.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Paulson.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
We have village committee reports, starting with BDC. Mr. Kelly, what do you got for us, sir?
BDC did not meet this month, we postponed, and so the meeting will be the second Wednesday of December.
Will it be twice as long to accommodate not meeting last month?
Well, the last meeting was a couple of hours, so I don't imagine we will be. at
About
4.
3, actually.
Yeah,
No.
I don't imagine we will be 6 hours.
Have to serve that meal.
Yeah.
Indeed. We did meet, what's that, last week? Okay.
Last
That's
Thursday.
Thursday.
Good. It's all kind of blurring together at this point, but, and one of the things that we wanted to, announce is that they should be checking on social media
I
tomorrow.
think we should make it an app-only
Yes.
thing.
It is an app-only thing. Okay, so please download the My Hampshire app. We will be sponsoring a contest for you, and you can only submit your contest entries through the app. We are asking that you help us name our snowplows. So,
It's not permanent name, just year to year, contest year to year.
Decals.
now, if they get scraped off,
Right.
somehow, maybe, yeah,
Why you
right?
gotta pick that up?
We'll just make sure. It's like Rusty Robinson.
Because they only got 35.
But, yes.
For that extra $5.
You will need to limit it. The contest details will be published tomorrow-ish when you get them. Yeah.
So when we get
Yes.
the, what's
It's already
under
set up in the app. ready to go.
They're going to get
Get the snowplow name.
the snowplow named, and they get a picture of the snowplow.
Like,
Well, more
Maybe-
copper barrel, $100,
maybe
20
the-
All of them or just one?
Yeah, not all
Just
of
the
the
big,
same.
just the big plows, 7 big plows.
Yep, 7 big plows. So,
Sweeper.
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was. a
you
lot
could do
more
that in the spring. We could do that in the spring. There you go. So you'll want to download that app and make sure that you are able to participate in this contest.
How many submissions can we make?
You can make as many as you would like,
Great.
but you have to use the app.
I got the app,
I was just saying.
And I got two kids with plenty of creative.
I'm saying. Okay, so there you go.
Thank you.
The winners will be selected, and then we will hope to take pictures with them
Yep.
next to the names applied to the trucks.
Yep,
And so
Maybe even the driver of the truck.
maybe if they want.
we're gonna change their names too.
Can we give them the old street sweeper? Brian?
I don't know. You should propose that to me.
Public Works,
Progress.
are you excited about the new contest?
Yeah, absolutely. Progress. But I'm salting.
Trustee, they're doing, they've done a great job already. I saw them, I heard them go by.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was like. oh, no.
And for the board, the end loader shaves about 30 minutes off of loading each truck. So big deal, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you're out of juice and you're really tired, that 30 minutes really is a big thing.
This Pound
A
Street.
little bit of fun during the night.
No report for the budget, new business or other announcements.
I had a few short ones, I promised. Veterans Day, the Hampshire Elementary School put on a wonderful program for all the veterans in the community who have children or grandchildren or whoever go to the school. One comment I did hear, maybe this chief, this is some feedback for you, is being that so many guests were coming into the school and the door being pretty much it's a wide open thing. A lot of commented that they would like to see a police officer like at the door, just as a presence when the school is open like that. So when you have, I don't even want to guess how many visitors they had coming that day, but just a calming reassurance for sure. So I don't know if Officer Paradise was there that day. I wasn't. Just things I hear. Speaking of veterans, we've neglected to wish all our veterans in the community happy Veterans Day last meeting. So post Veterans Day, I'd like to thank all our veterans in our community for all their service and wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving coming up. That's it.
Any other new business or other announcements? If you would like to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. We have a tradition in my house where you go around the table and tell everybody what you're thankful for, but it's almost 10 o'clock, so I'm not gonna make you wait. So.
I'm thankful.
I will be thankful to hear a motion to adjourn.
So, thank
Questions, comments, concerns?
Rainbow Jinx.
Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Mack. Ms. Paulson. Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Motion passed 6-0.
Thank you very much, everyone.